welcome back to My Mythical Meta. My name is Travis, and I'm joined by my brother Benjamin.
Hello.
And my good friend Derek.
Hey.
Randy's not with us tonight. We mourn his passing.
I miss him already.
Chilling out, playing Baldur's Gate, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. But he said, hey, not tonight. So we wish him the best. This is your gaming podcast. That's actually your secret friendship podcast. We are actually your secret magic podcast.
Yeah,
let's
we can't help it.
Let's get rid of any pretenses. We are actually starting a new episode series called Essential Concepts. This is going to be a Magic the Gathering focused series, and we are going to discuss popular archetypes in Magic. Different deck building styles, different play styles, and for those archetypes, we will address some core concepts and challenges of playing those archetypes. As with any Magic episode, lots of cards are probably going to come up throughout those episodes that serve those archetypes. So, listeners, especially listeners new to Magic, comment with archetypes that you want to learn about. We've got a list, but if there's an archetype that you want higher up on that list, let us know. Especially in terms of the differences between commander archetypes and 1v1 archetypes. Yeah. We want to talk about all of them, and we want to talk about how the game is different between 1v1 and multiplayer. This episode goes out to David!
David, my boy!
David is our Yu-Gi-Oh! Patron who is learning about Magic, and the idea for this series came up with him in mind. David, you were in my heart when we thought up this series. Listeners, for more information about our Patreon and its perks, please visit patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. As always, you can also contact us directly with any questions, comments, and possible news from the Warfront ideas. Benjamin, what is our email address?
mymythicalmeta@gmail.com.
Episode 1 of Essential Concepts. We are going to be talking about an archetype called Voltron. Episode 1, it's all about the power of one. Of having one super-powered creature.
That's right.
This archetype certainly exists in normal 1v1 Magic. It's very powerful when you've only got to deal 20 damage to one player. We are going to be mostly talking about EDH, though, about multiplayer, because that's the format that we play. But the concepts we talk about for Voltron today will often apply in both 1v1 and multiplayer. So no matter what style of Magic you play, tune in for some great tips about how to build and how to play Voltron commanders. Benjamin, can you tell us what's up? Why do we call it Voltron? What is this style of deck all about?
Yeah, so the idea of a Voltron deck is that you put a lot of pieces together to make one powerful creature, and then you get in with that powerful creature to kill your opponents. So
the name Voltron is specifically from the show Voltron,
yes,
where 5 lions combine together to make one large robot.
Yeah.
Also, like the Megazord from Power Rangers, stuff like that. So it's the sum of many small things make one large threat.
Yeah. Even as someone who never watched Voltron, that was never a show on my rotation. Even then, as I was building some decks that were, equipment focused, I was like, I'm going to build a Voltron deck that suits up one guy.
Yeah.
Like, that name is just synonymous with this idea that the sum of the parts, how does the phrase go? The sum of the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
The whole is greater than
the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That's how it goes.
The most famous Voltron deck currently that's not in Commander would be Hammer Time. If you've heard of Hammer Time, it uses Pure Steel Paladin or Sigarda's Aid to put a Colossus Hammer on something. So it's trying to make a big construct token or something like that and just suit up, or an Esper Sentinel, something that's cheap and can protect itself or something like that. Just sticks these huge equipment on there and get in there. That's what Voltron is all about.
Yeah, and in the Commander format, this usually means the Commander itself. stacking up all the power of that specific creature. In Commander, that's relevant because the damage required to knock a player out is less than 40, the starting life total. In order to completely knock a player out with a Commander, they only need to deal 21 combat damage.
And it can't be negated by life gain.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if they gain that life back or whatever. You keep track of the damage dealt, and once that first point of damage is taken, that player's out. It doesn't matter if they've got 600 life and 200 creatures. Their board state doesn't matter. Well, nothing matters. It's just if they've taken that damage from a commander card, from this card that is in a different color sleeve, this piece of cardboard, then that's it. Then the game is over. And obviously, it's a very popular way to build Voltron in Commander because the burden is lower. The hurdle is lower. You don't have to deal as much.
You need to deal 63 total damage with your Commander.
Exactly. 63 instead of 120. You've cut that hurdle in half. So another way to build Voltron is an infect creature.
Right.
Because infect is going to cut your requirement down by a fourth. The infect requirement is the same in both multiplayer Commander and 1v1. 10 infect damage is enough for a win, is all that's required for a win. So having an infect creature knock your opponents out is another effective way to build a Voltron Commander. So, Derek, what's the most common way to make one creature enough to knock out one person by itself or multiple people?
Yeah, let's just say you pick Baby's first deck, you find a command that you really jive with, and the way you want to start powering that creature up is by adding auras that attach to the creature. Maybe they give a static buff to the power toughness. They give keywords, they give protection, some form of protection or whatever. And then on the other side, with artifacts, you want to look for equipment that you can attach to, you kind of pay the amount in installments. Like, I'll play this equipment now, then I'll attach later at a cheaper price. And that's going to also, I think equipment are stronger because you pay them in installments. The bonuses they give are larger, just generally speaking. Yeah, you just attach those, and then almost every Voltron deck you see is going to have some kind of combination of those. Maybe some other creatures that might enable some way, or maybe your commander has specific mechanics to be its own little Voltron menace.
Yeah. I actually agree with you. In general, I think artifacts is a smarter move, but that's only because of the card advantage dilemma that you face whenever your commander is removed. And ultimately, guys, if you are attempting to play a Voltron commander, your opponent's only got one target, that one creature. And the benefit of artifacts is that if that creature dies, the artifacts stay on the board. You can re-equip them later once you get a new creature out or recast your commander. Auras face a very different problem, which is whenever the creature goes to the graveyard or is removed or exiled or whatever, all of the auras that you've got stacked on also go to the graveyard. So we call that card disadvantage if somebody can use one card to get rid of 2, 3, or 4 of your cards. That's major advantage for the other player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, since you just described probably the biggest weakness of Voltron, tell us about some of the other weaknesses that Voltron.
Yeah, so like I said, a major weakness of Voltron is your opponents have an easy target, your one creature, which does create serious card advantage whenever it's removed. And it can be even worse than just removing it to the graveyard. Sometimes they can steal it.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen to me. I had an Avacyn Angel of Hope deck very early in my life. And I thought, yes, it costs 8, but it's also an 8/8 Flying Vig Indestructible. And I put a bunch of equipments and stuff in there. And then somebody just does a Control Magic or even worse, Corrupted Conscience.
Yeah.
Mind Control, to take this super souped up creature and use it against you is the absolute worst feeling. Another way that's common in our meta, and I don't know if it's common everywhere else, is an effect called an edict, which means each player sacrifices a creature. It doesn't matter how protected your creature is. If it's got indestructible, hexproof, ward, whatever, they don't have to pay anything extra to make you sacrifice it. And if it's your only creature on the board, you don't have a choice. Like it's going away, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, Benjamin loves to run those effects. Every time I think about making a Voltron deck, I have to consider how am I going to get around that, because that is a huge problem in our meta.
And we do have some cards in the pipeline that can help you mitigate some of these weaknesses, or some aspects of these weaknesses. Another is that a lot of these decks, like Derek mentioned, they're done with aura enchantments or equipment artifacts, or a mix of the two. If your deck focuses on enchantments or artifacts, then that means a board wipe that targets either of them will decimate your board. And I run them. Austere Command, Vandal Blast.
Yep.
Yeah, you'd be a fool not to run them.
What'd you say?
You'd be a fool not to run them.
Yeah, exactly. So if I play a card that says destroy all enchantments, and my opponent is Uriel the Miststalker, well, have fun going back to being a 5/5.
Yeah.
Rather than whatever power you were. And we'll talk about Uriel later in the episode too. But it's the same if I destroy all equipment, destroy all artifacts. Not only is that going to hit all the ramp that everybody, or a lot of the artifact ramp that everybody's playing, and that's why I run it. That's why I run destroy all artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
But to take out all of the equipment somebody's playing, so that is certainly another weakness.
Yeah.
And Derek, you brought
Back
up
to
a
Nature
really...
is only 2 mana for an instant that destroys all.
What'd you say, Benjamin?
I was just how easy it is to do. Back to Nature is a 2 mana instant that destroys all enchantments. So you're swinging with your Uriel, thinking you're a 12/12 menace, lifelink, indestructible, can't be blocked, whatever, and then someone back to Nature's and then sticks a Death Toucher in front of you.
Yeah, gone. So it is definitely something to keep in mind. Derek, you brought up a really interesting weakness for Voltron commanders.
Yeah, so my thought was that a lot of these commanders, obviously people know who you're going to play before you even draw your first card, but a lot of them have reputations, and people know what they're about to get into usually, unless it's like a new card we haven't really seen it. But like the established cards, we know what they're going to do, we know how Voltron plays, and it's all just a matter of perception. Like, let's say I have this 15/15 commander, maybe he doesn't even have trample or something like that. 50/50 is scary, but it's not as bad because they could chump block it with like a 1/1 or something like that. But someone seeing that might be more terrified than some kind of other threat on the table. Like maybe there's a lot of little pieces of a combo that are being put together, and you're trying to convince someone, hey, Benjamin's about to do this big combo thing. You have to go after him.
And they put blinders on when they see
it's like, no, you have the 15/15. I can see, like people are just blind to what else is around it because you're a giant lightning rod of threatening power.
Yep. Yeah, so the perception of a Voltron deck is often very scary. People treat Voltrons the same way they treat Infect, which is kill on sight, kill as fast as possible, because the strategy is similar. If you're a Voltron, you need to bite on and not let go. You need to attack one opponent and keep going after that same person until they're out, because you've got to deal 21 damage to them, whatever method you're going. Mm-hmm. I did have a Xenagos deck a long time ago where Xenagos wasn't the one swinging. Yeah, and my goal was to get a creature to be doubled so many times that it was 40 damage at once.
Right.
Well, just so much. And Benjamin, I built your Mr. Orfeo deck to do that same thing.
Yep. And I had an Avacyn, the Archangel Avacyn. Right?
Yeah.
Is it Archangel Avacyn, the one that flips to the red?
The one that flips?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one you built me.
Yeah.
Another weakness is that because Voltron decks often play very few creatures, you won't have much defense after you attack with your Voltron. We're going to talk later about how vigilance is important to have, but that's still only one blocker. Your walls are often down in a Voltron deck. and it leaves you open to a lot. It leaves you open to a lot of counterattack. And then I think one of the most critical weaknesses of Voltron is the time that it takes. This is a time-intensive strategy, even though it can get scary fast. Like, man, doesn't that suck to play aggro, but to know it's still going to take a long time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might have the most threatening thing, do 100 damage, and it's still going to take 3 turns to win the game.
Exactly. So the time that a Voltron commander takes, you often can't kill multiple players at once. And even killing a single player will usually take multiple turns itself. We're going to talk later about the magic number 7, because 21 divided by 3 is 7. If you can get your commander to 7 power, then it only takes 3 attacks to kill someone. That's still 3 combat phases.
Yeah.
Man. And then considering a round of EDH with 4 players, you're getting 3 other people's turns for each one of your turn.
Mm-hmm.
So having defenses down and having to take so many combat phases to win the game, it really is an uphill battle with Voltron. So you should be on the back foot when other people start saying Voltron strategies or commanders need to be nerfed.
Yeah.
Because and I've seen it. Like, a new Voltron commander will come out that has a lot of card draw stapled to it, or it has 4 keywords added onto it as well as a card draw ability. And people say, "Oh, this needs to be nerfed." Just be like, Magic can have strong creatures, and if somebody tries to do an entire game with 1 creature, there's a lot against them.
Yeah.
So let's talk, though, instead about the pros. What does Voltron have going for it, and what makes it fun?
I think the biggest one is just it feels so good to have a huge, indestructible, hex-proof, can't be sacrificed, protection from everything, unblockable, giant menace that you have created. You feel like a mad scientist, it's alive as you watch your Frankenstein lumber in.
I'm the baddest kid on the playground, and everyone fears me.
That's
it's
right.
kind of like
so
a rush almost.
That power fantasy just can't be matched. I feel most alive when I play Voltron decks.
Yeah.
That's what Richard Garfield intended.
It is though. Like, I don't think it's a surprise that the first Theros block had a keyword, an italic word or whatever, called heroic. They wanted you to do this in standard. They wanted you to build Voltron's scary creatures in standard, because it was all about creating one super powerful hero to fight against each other. And I know in the Alara block, when they were making Bant, like the entire Bant shard uses a mechanic called Exalted, which wants you to attack 1 creature at a time.
1 creature, yep.
And it's so much fun to build such a powerful creature that can take out a player or armies in 1 blow. Like, that feels really cool.
Another thing, so many of the commanders I've built in my life have been Voltron, because there's something personal about picking out a card that you like and making it the star of the show. You didn't build tokens that nobody matters. You didn't build a combo where your commander just sits in the command zone and is just part of a machine. No, you made it about that commander, and that commander is the star. And it's like a projection of you. It's your avatar, and you're suited up in the assault suit. You are the Gundam pilot. Yeah. You're sitting there, right? You've created this mech, and then you just stick your commander in there, and you go to battle.
So Ultra complete, baby.
Yeah. So
Helmet,
it is the power
sword, boots. Let's go.
I'm sitting here thinking, like, playing Voltron is a lot like playing like a RPG video game. Yeah. Like, you have your character just starting out, and you start getting more and more things, and suddenly you're an overpowered boss monster.
Yes, Benjamin, I know exactly what you're talking about. And Derek saying that when your RPG character starts small, and then you get the gear, you get the spells, and then you feel powerful. Yeah. That's exactly what this feels like.
Yeah. Apart from just how you feel, though, there are some positive gameplay reasons to play Voltron. One is just that there's a lot of support for it, right? Literally, auras and equipment are made for Voltron, and there's hundreds of them, thousands of auras, and probably thousands of equipment too. But there's so much, right? Creatures have been a focus of Magic for a long time. There are some very, very powerful ones, and there are auras and equipment that make them strong. And so there's the support. There's enchantresses that say draw a card for every time you cast an enchantment spell. Well, if you're going to be suiting your commander up with auras, you have a couple of those, and suddenly you're drawing 2 or 3 cards every time you make your creature more powerful. There's similar cards for equipment. There's things that care about the number of artifacts you have. So there is a lot of support for Voltron, and your game plan is very straightforward, right? Now this is focused on beginners. For folks that have been around and know how to play, there is actually some nuance to. There's some strategy involved, but for beginners, it's also easy, right? You make creature big, smash, right? That's not hard, but it's effective. This is a good archetype for beginners who are not necessarily sure what to do, because usually when you're playing Voltron, you're playing a commander or equipment that protects you, right? You're not going to get Beast Within because you have Hexproof, or you have Protection, or you have Indestructible. And so a lot of those things that are problems for a lot of people, you've kind of built your deck to protect yourself from them. And so I think that sort of resilience and support and straightforward game plan can make your deck real easy for beginners while still having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Derek, you brought up this last one, and you mentioned it as a weakness, that the perception of your deck is pretty scary, but you also said that could be positive. How so?
Yeah, I think when you have a 15/15 creature with trample, you could be swinging for lethal or close to it. You've got a lot of power in your hand. You're holding a lot of cards, so to say. People will please, they want to do their own thing, or you're like, let me live for one more turn. They start, begging you to make deals and stuff like that. And this could, like I said, it could be a con. It could be plotting against you. Like, hey, all 3 of us should get him, but if you could make a deal with 1 or 2 people, go after the third, or, if you could make an alliance with at least 1, now you've turned into a 2v2 instead of a 3, or hopefully even 3v1, people will make a lot of deals, and you can get a lot of pseudo protection that way.
Yeah. Without even spending a card.
Yeah. It's like you were going to hit someone anyways. It didn't have to be this person.
Yes, I really like that last part. You're going to attack no matter what, because that's your aggro game plan. But who you attack is going to depend on what they can offer you, on what tributes other people may give, in order to be spared,
right?
Because just like you said, they want to play their deck, they want to do their thing, they want to live one more turn, and you can be the benevolent god that grants them that one more turn by taking it from someone else.
Yeah, and you're the one that's threatening them, but they're thankful to you for not, it's kind of like a twisted thing in their in the head, where we are thanking our torturer kind of thing.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought of it that way.
So,
all right,
those are some strategy bits, some things to consider when building Voltron. And like we said, we think this is a great first archetype for someone to try out. Because it's going to be, we think, just because of who we are, the media we like, we think this is fun. We've been talking for 60 episodes now about how Derek and Randy love Godzilla versus King Kong. And that is brother. What Voltron feels like.
Yeah.
Is being a really powerful creature. So if this deck archetype can get you feeling, can get your emotions invested in the game, you will have more fun. You will have more fun playing it. So now we're going to get to some things you need to think about for your commander. And we're going to talk first about the essential keywords. Abilities that good Voltron creatures have.
Yeah, I think these are what you first and foremost want to get. Just like these are the things that you want to protect you, and these are the things that are going to help you win the game. You can make a creature that's 100 power, and it It's still good, but it's not as good as
Yeah.
something with 10 power and trample or something. So keywords is what you want to get first and foremost.
I agree that keywords have got to be your number one. And when you're looking for the commander you want to pick, or the specific creatures you want to be your Voltrons, you should be looking at your keywords first. You don't look at their power and toughness first. I think you should look at their keywords, because that's going to be much more valuable for your Voltron than the power and toughness. The power can come later. Okay, you've got time to build that stuff up, but if somebody knows you're playing Voltron and you play something and it doesn't have any of these keywords, people are going to lightning bolt it as fast as possible and just kill your tempo. So I think you should really consider these keywords. And let's go ahead and start off with Hexproof and Ward. You've got to protect your commander from targeted removal. And that is exactly what Hexproof and Ward do. We've made the joke several times on this podcast that Ward might as well be Hexproof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People hate paying the extra mana for a targeted removal spell. Our go-to targeted removal spell is Swords to Plowshares or Path to Exile, but Miriam Sentinel Worm has Ward 3?
2?
Ward 3.
I think it's 2.
Whatever it is, it's too much.
Whatever it is, it's too much, exactly.
Yeah.
Miriam has Ward 2. If you asked
Ward
me
2?
to pay 3 for a Swords to Plowshares, I'd rather die.
I'd rather get 4 dragons on the field.
I'd rather him get 4 dragons on the field and swing at me with all of them than pay 3 for Swords to Plowshares. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, Voja has Ward 3. I didn't realize he was...
That's what it is. Voja's got Ward 3.
Yeah.
You must be out of your mind to get me to pay 4 for Swords to Plowshares.
Ward 1's rough, but Ward 2 or more, it messes up your entire game plan.
It does.
It's like,
man.
What am I going to do? I have to hold up like 3 mana for a Swords to Plowshare. That means I can't play any of this stuff here in my hand. It's just dead cards right now because I might get hit next turn.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that also kind of brings us into our next keyword. So Hexproof and Ward are going to protect from targeted removal, but they don't protect from board wipes. And that's why you need this next keyword, Indestructible.
Absolutely.
As soon as you can, you need to get Hexproof and Indestructible on your Voltron. You need those two. So Indestructible is going to protect from any effect that says destroy, and it prevents your creature from dying to damage. Okay, that's what Indestructible prevents. So a damage-based board wipe like
Blasphemous
what's the one,
Act?
Randy?
Blasphemous Act?
That's the one. Blasphemous Act, Wrath of God, like
Star of
any of these
Extinction.
that just say destroy all creatures or whatever. Hexproof is going to protect from the targeted removal. Indestructible is going to protect from the most common board wipes. I'd say a solid 80% of most board wipes say destroy or are damage based. Benjamin, what's another keyword that you think is very, very important for your Voltron?
Horsemanship. All keywords are basically horsemanship. No, but
all keywords are basically kicker.
Right. Kicker or horsemanship. But no, unblockable, horsemanship, flying, shadow, menace, intimidate, whatever.
They kind of get worse as you trail down.
Yeah.
Intimidate, fear, menace.
Yeah.
But
you need a way to get your creature damage through it. And unblockable is obviously best, right? If it can't be blocked, then you're gonna hit. There are some that
all the damage it can.
Yeah. There are some that say can deal combat damage as if it weren't blocked. I don't think that's been keyworded, but that works too, right? But anything that lets them not be blocked by most creatures or put some additional conditions on blocking, whatever it is, you need to get the damage through. And the thing is, there are lots of token decks out there. There's lots of people who are playing their own indestructible creatures that can chump block. There are regenerating creatures, and if you need to be able to get around them and get through. And I think I actually messed up. I think Travis was actually asking me about another thing. There's one type of evasion that also is kind of like hexproof, and that's protection.
I think it's honestly for Voltron. I think it's worse.
You think it's worse than Hexproof?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I wouldn't even run this,
you
but
wouldn't
I
run
think it's worth
protection?
mentioning. Yeah. Well, so protection is what we're
depends.
talking about.
Yeah. So we're talking about protection. Protection, it's always going to be protection from blank. Usually it's a color, protection from red, protection from white, but sometimes it's protection from creatures. That's a very common one.
Protection from instants?
Yep.
Instants and sorcerers, I think.
Well, there's multiple and they have different ones. Yeah.
What is Brazella, Voice of Hunger or whatever? Protection from spells that cost 3 CMC or greater?
Okay. Something like that, yeah. It's 3 and something.
Yeah. So protection is great because it prevents targeting by anything with that quality, and it also prevents blocking by anything with that quality. I think now, Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're getting at is you don't want to run protection because it prevents you from suiting up your creature, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a double-edged sword. You can't have protection from everything because then you hurt yourself also. Whatever colors you're in, you can't now equip any auras because it's protection from anything, not just opponent stuff.
Yeah. So
you'll notice, listener, that I did not mention Shroud earlier. We don't want Shroud on our Voltron because Shroud means it can't be targeted at all by anyone, and that includes you.
That's right.
If your whole deck is auras and equipments, they have to target, and Shroud is not gonna help you out.
Yeah. So I did go through. I had a Rograk and Arden deck that ran all the swords, and I realized the problem and took out every sword that gave protection from red or protection from white because I need to be able to put red equipment or white auras on my creatures.
Yeah,
so Arden target.
I wouldn't run any protection that protects from what colors I'm in because you would end up shooting yourself in the foot later when you need to.
Right. But there is a great equipment that says protection from everything your commander's not. What is that one?
Commander's Plate.
Commander's Plate?
Oh, yeah, okay.
I would run that.
Commander's Plate is awesome.
So,
yeah, Benjamin, Arden does target. It says...
Yes, it does.
You may attach any number of auras and equipment you control to target permanent or player.
Exactly.
So if your Voltron has protection from white, now it can't receive anything else from Arden.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. So I had to go through and take out a bunch of good stuff, a bunch of those good swords that are otherwise really good. But you do have to be careful when you're sticking in things that also prevent you from suiting up your commander.
Yeah. I'll talk about this next one.
Oh, let me do it as the resident green player.
Go for it.
Okay. So you've got a massive creature. How are you getting in? You got to have trample. This is gonna, your creature, their creature go head to head, and whatever excess damage you do to that creature is gonna fly over and hit however many blockers there are, and then hit the controller. Yeah. I like to use trample as kind of like not like a pseudo board wipe, but to really kind of clear the field for any kind of crackback I might get. And so that I feel like trample's kind of your bread and butter. You don't really have a Voltron commander until you have trample. But when it starts to really get crazy is when you start adding Death Touch and Trample together.
Mm-hmm.
Now you assign, because you have to assign lethal damage, and with Death Touch, 1 point is all it takes to assign lethal damage. So you trample, deal 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, and then everything else is all to the owner. And I love it.
I've noticed that once you have Trample and Death Touch, people stop blocking altogether.
Yeah, it's like, well, what's the point?
Unblockable.
So they just take it all.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say is that if for some reason flying is not in your wheelhouse, is not available to you, maybe you're just in colors that your commander can't have flying. I don't know. But Trample is your next best evasion. Because Trample is also kind of removal. It's also kind of all sorts of things. If a big enough creature has Trample, people won't block it. Because they don't want to lose their creature for nothing.
Yeah.
The creature that always comes to my mind is like Oracle of Moldiah. It has so much utility on the board. It lets me look at the top card of my deck, lets me play an extra land per turn, whatever. But it's a 2/2 body. If I'm going to block with an Oracle of Moldiah, I need to be blocking whatever life his effect is worth.
Yeah.
Arguably
lethal.
Lethal. But maybe, what if I'm modest and just say 10? 10 life. I need to be able to block 10 damage in order to sacrifice my Oracle of Moldiah to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so
and
if all of a
just...
sudden something has trample and I'm only saving myself 2 damage, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, what's
I'm
the
not
point?
going to sacrifice a good utility creature for just 2 life points. Because that extra land I play next turn might be enough to turn the tables or whatever. But that's kind of what I mean. And Derek, I think you're absolutely right that trample is so good because when people do start blocking, well, you're removing their good stuff.
Yeah.
You are removing their good stuff if somebody has decided it's worth it to block. So, yeah, absolutely. Benjamin, you want to hit another one?
Sure. So I'm going to do these two together. They're Vigilance and Lifelink. These are defensive, right? But the truth is, it's going to take you a while to knock out your opponents. You're probably only killing one at a time. Everyone's free to swing at you while you're doing that. Vigilance allows your Voltron to stay up to block after they've done their damage. You have to be attacking every turn. So if you want a blocker, Vigilance is the best way to do that. Mm-hmm. Right?
What's really cool about your commander having Vigilance is often you're staring everybody else down and saying, you're going to lose your best creature if you attack me. You're going to lose your best creature if you attack me. So it often feels really good to be sitting there on defense with Uriel the Miststalker.
Right.
You know, as he's a 2020 whatever with reach or, you know, lifelink.
Everything. Yep.
What you're about to get to. But to say, like, I'm going to be better because I will have destroyed your best thing and I'll still be here. Like,
right.
Anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, you mentioned Lifelink. Lifelink's the other part of that defensive thing. Nothing makes me feel better than giving Grismold Lifelink. Because if we're in a race where you're cracking, you're swinging your 10 tokens at me and I'm swinging a 30-30 at you, right? Like, okay, we're racing and I don't know who's going to win, except if I have Lifelink, I don't need to block your tokens, right? I just gained 30 life. It's like, okay, fine. Right?
Yeah.
Lifelink, it blocks at all of them. It's not just, oh, you're going to lose your best thing. It's your best thing is useless. You know, you didn't do anything to me.
Yeah, you've now put your shields down so I can hit you even harder next time.
Exactly. So
cards like True Conviction feel great. True Conviction is an enchantment that gives all of your creatures double strike and lifelink. Like, I am happy to swing out with every single creature I have if they all have double strike and lifelink, because the life buffer that I'm going to get from that, it doesn't matter if my shields are down. For 3 turns, or for 3 opponents, it doesn't matter if my shields are down.
Yeah.
Because the life I just gained from a big attack like that can soak it all.
Yeah. I mean, Randy, he's the, I guess, resident white player, and a lot of his creatures have vigilance and lifelink. And how many times we're like, I don't want to swing into him because he's about to get 50 life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For me, he's gonna get a net positive from me attacking.
Yeah. And that is what lifelink can get you.
Yeah.
And so with vigilance, those two, that's just it's amazing because your big creature gains you life when you attack, gains you life when you block. It's a one creature wall. It cannot, like, I don't know. It's beautiful just to have vigilance and lifelink on a large protected creature. It makes you feel so good.
Yeah, it's going to add a sense of safety to really being very vulnerable.
Yeah.
Don't let us say like you're totally safe with vigilance and lifelink. You're not. But you will feel very safe.
Yeah.
Your opponents may think you look very safe.
Yeah.
Like
with
if
lifelink,
they haven't found a way around it.
Yeah, with lifelink, you still have to worry about tons of creatures or tons of, middle creatures or whatever. But the real, I guess, kind of counter to lifelink, and the reason why we have it is commander damage. And so if you've got the biggest creature on the board, what are they going to do if you've got vigilance and lifelink? And, every time you go head to head, you're going to kill their creature. It's, you just keep getting life and life and life, and they can't get in to do commander damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wanted to give a special mention to this keyword. I think you need to consider this keyword carefully before investing anything into it. It's called phasing. And the card that I want to bring up is Teferi's Veil. This is a really cool enchantment for only 1 and a blue. And it says, whenever any creature you control attacks, it phases out at end of combat. The keyword phasing means that it is treated as if it doesn't exist. And then at your upkeep, it comes back in. So
Untap.
Is it at your untap?
It's your untap. Yeah.
It's at your untap step. So if it was tapped, it comes in, it untaps, and so you get to start your turn with it all the time. But once it's phased, that means during your opponent's turns, it's treated as if it's not there. And if it's treated as if it's not there, it can't be removed. They board wipes, sacrifice effects, targeted removal, nothing matters at all. Negative toughness effects. What's a toxic deluge? Doesn't matter if your creature is phased out. So this is a really cool keyword if you can find some other way to put other walls up. Maybe you've got, a defense package like Propaganda, Ghostly Prisons, Sphere of Safety. Like maybe you've got some other type of protection to keep people from getting at you, which can allow you the safety of phasing out your commander or of phasing out your Voltron. Phasing was updated in 2017 when Teferi's Protection came out in the Edgar Markov deck. And there were a couple changes to phasing that make this relevant. First, tokens can now phase back in. They didn't used to be able to phase in, but now they can. And second, if something is equipped or attached to a permanent that phases out, that equipment or aura phases with it. So I don't have to give the sword phasing. It will naturally phase with whatever was holding it. And then those things will phase back in. So that also means if I've got a Voltron suited up with a helmet, 2 swords, and boots, and he phases out, my opponent plays Vandal Blast, and all of my equipment was also safe. So there's some really cool things to consider about phasing, but again, I don't know if I would invest a lot into it unless I had some other defenses up in the deck. But I do think phasing is really cool and obviously makes your commander and anything attached to it invulnerable.
Yep.
Completely safe.
Truly.
Nothing they cast or do can touch it because it's already treated as if it didn't exist. So it can't be targeted or whatever. Another thing that you should so after we've got our keywords for some of these relevant keywords, then you can start worrying yourself with your commander's power. And the magic number that you should have in your mind, listener, is 7. You're going to see your opponent start making different decisions once your commander's power is 7. We call it putting on an opponent's clock, or you put your opponents on a clock. At 7, that means they can survive 3 attacks. Anything less than 7, and you're looking so far into the future that it's irrelevant. Anything less than 7 power. Because it's going to take 4, 5, however many turns. And surely by then, they'll have found an answer to your commander, right? But that clock being at 3, that's 3 untaps, 3 draws, 3 combat phases. That's all they've got. That time-based resources that Magic has built into it.
They're going to see their life flash before their eyes in these last 3 turns.
Yeah, they're getting their deathbed montage once your power hits 7. Because they can see the end. It's in sight. 3 attacks from a commander can kill somebody. So 7 is an essential milestone for your commander. You should feel good once you've got 7. And along with that, we talked a lot about a bunch of other keywords, but another thing that can sometimes replace power 7 or make it really, really good is Double Strike.
Yes.
Okay, Double Strike can turn a 4/4 into
a 3-turn clock,
dealing 8 damage. It can turn a 4/4 into a 3-turn clock. So Double Strike with 7 power, that reduces the clock by another turn. Now they're at 2. So Double Strike and /or the power being 7. Those are really good things in terms of getting your opponent's life points ticking down at a fast enough pace. And then the other alternative to that is Infect. Infect, again, you no longer have to deal 21. Now you only have to deal 10. I mean, that is often a clock of 1 or a clock of 2. So anything that puts the clock at 3 or less, you're making reasonable progress with your commander. Reasonable progress with your Voltron, I think.
Yeah.
Is there anything you guys want to add about Power 7, Double Strike, or Infect? I know I kind of ran through those.
With
good.
Infect, be sure you know what you're doing with Infect, because if someone sees you pull out Infect, thinking out the window, you are the threat for everyone there. Unless you're dealing with veterans who've seen it all and they're ready for whatever, not worried about it. The beginner player or whatever, knowing
They
that
will see red.
yeah, now it's 10 instead of 40. They you've just done 30 damage to them and now they can't think straight. Or in their minds you've done 30 damage.
For real.
So
Whenever the new Phyrexia set came out, there was that rush online again of saying that Infect needed to be at 20 instead of 10.
yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my god, shut up. But like that's what Infect is supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
Panic. Absolute panic.
Yeah. And with Infect, you can make any creature basically into a commander, in the sense that any creature now has shortened their clock, right?
Yes.
A 1/1 unblockable Infect, Blighted Agent. Okay,
Yep.
you suit it up with a few things, you give it Double Strike, and it's a 1 or 2 turn clock now.
Mm-hmm.
And so Infect allows you to kind of spread out who you want to be your Voltron.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I forgot what his name was.
White, blue, black gun. Yeah.
Camise Obscura Oculus is my Infect commander right now, because he gives one creature can't be blocked, and then another creature he gives Double Strike. So the deck is full of Infect people, so a Double Strike Infect and an unblockable Infect every turn are going out. It's a lot of fun, but you're exactly right that as soon as somebody sees a single creature with the words Toxic or Infect on them, a lot of your opponents are going to start seeing red. If they haven't been playing for a long time, they're going to say, I have to get rid of him because he's not playing by 120 life.
Yeah.
He's playing by 30.
Yeah.
Which is less.
Yeah. I also feel like with Infect, if you can sneak a kill out of nowhere, you've killed the morale at the table. As far as them thinking that they might win. They're like, well, I guess I'll play it out, but looks like maybe, I have,
True.
Derek has it or whatever. So it's very shock and awe type of.
A quick tainted strike.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So I was excited to do this next section and to come up with some fun ideas with y'all. Our next section here in our Essential Concepts series is beginner commanders for that archetype. So if you've never built a Voltron commander before, we've got some beginner commanders that we think will not only teach you these strategies well, kind of teach you the ins and outs, but some of these creatures pioneered the strategy. And like you really saw the strategy come into its own, like arrive on the block when people first started playing. And so it's pretty cool. And Benjamin, I'd like you to do this first one on our list.
One of my very, very first commander decks was a Voltron deck based around Rafik of the Many. He's
the granddaddy of Voltron, y'all.
Absolutely. He's a human knight, 3/3, costs 1 green, white, blue, so 4 mana. He has Exalted, which means whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And he has whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains Double Strike until end of turn. So he checks a couple of these boxes here. With Exalted, when he attacks, he will go from a 3/3 to a 4/4, and then he will give himself Double Strike. So he does 8 damage by himself. He's a 3-turn clock by himself in the command zone. There you go. With nothing. Yeah, you play him. One of the nice things is he does let any of your creatures be your Voltron if you want. You can make an Infect deck out of Rafik. There's some, right now.
Yeah, green and blue have plenty of Infect,
and
toxic creatures.
Now it's not. I wouldn't necessarily go that way because Infect likes to swarm, or you want to hit multiple players at a time or things like that. And Rafik makes you attack with just the one creature. So usually you're going to want it to be Rafik or some other very large creature that can get in. And that's how I built it. I built a lot of cards that were bigger than Rafik, that I was giving +1/+1 and double strike. But his colors are great for auras, equipment, and protection, right? White has all the best protection and has a lot of equipment support. Blue has an excellent card draw. Green is, of course, the best color in Magic. And so you put all those together.
Power buffs.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you would do this, but a single giant growth for 1 green mana, when your creature's got double strike, that's 6 extra damage for 1 green mana.
Yeah.
So green, the power buff that green is going to provide in a deck like this is insane.
Absolutely.
And way worth the mana investment. Because green doesn't get double strike often. Green rarely gets double strike, but now it does with Rafik.
Right. So, yeah, suit yourself up, suit up another creature, give it +1/+1 and double strike. Get in there. Right. So, yeah, the original Voltron commander.
Yeah, the OG.
You can't go wrong.
And Rafik had a reputation for a very long time, probably a decade of fear when you see it in the command zone.
Yeah, it has been outclassed now, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I want to talk about the creature that I think outclassed it most, and that's Galea, Kindler of Hope.
Yeah.
Galea, Kindler of Hope came out in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms or Baldur's Gate. One of those. Same mana cost, 1 green, white, blue, for a 4/4 elf knight. So just that, we've gotten Rafik's body and his exalted taken care of. He's a 4/4 instead of a 3/3. Galea of Hope, or Galea, Kindler of Hope, has vigilance. And then you may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast aura and equipment spells from the top of your library. When you cast an equipment spell this way, it gains, when this equipment enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control.
Ooh.
So this is the power creep of Rafik. Same mana cost, higher power and toughness, vigilance, native on the body, so ready for defense. And then this is another thing that we believe at My Mythical Meta. This is something we call virtual card draw. It's not actual card draw, but if you are casting stuff from the top of your library, you get to look at the next card. And if it matches whatever condition is listed, you could cast it again. And that's the same as card draw.
Deck velocity.
It's as if that card is in your hand. So you can cast the auras and equipment spells that are on the top. And my God, the significant mana savings in terms of that equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of not
Get
having
cheap
to pay the
equipment with expensive attachment fees or whatever.
Yeah.
And cheap equipment with expensive
you've broken
attached.
that parity.
Derek and I mentioned before that in general, we think equipment is better because it's going to save you a little bit of heartbreak from card disadvantage if your Voltron gets removed because the equipment gets to stay. So here, for that first equip at least, you don't have to pay for it with Galea.
Yeah. Get your Colossus Hammer for 1, stick it on something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Galea was the head of a commander deck. So they built the entire deck around Galea for this exact purpose, to build a Voltron deck. Let me see how much she cost.
Let's see, I have the precon in my bag.
Galea costs 50 cents. Now,
or nothing.
We're not saying that not every card we list today has budget in our concerns.
That's right.
But for beginners, if you're looking for a great commander in great colors that is going to protect you from a lot of the weaknesses we mentioned earlier, like the card disadvantage, like the card draw problem, Galea, Kindler of Hope is an excellent option.
Mm-hmm.
Derek, which one do you want to hit?
I don't want to steal the next one. Let me do Sigarda, Host of Herons.
Yeah.
She's white, green, and 2 for a legendary creature angel. It's a 5/5. She's got flying hexproof. I already like what she's doing. She's a little expensive, but she's got the flying, she's got the hexproof, both of which are
5/5 for 5 is still on par.
Yeah, that's still, just
and
give
then it's
2.
got the flying and the hexproof in it too.
So, with flying, she's, at least in our meta, we don't have a ton of flyers. Or at least I don't. So, I feel like she's going to get in more often than she's not.
In general, I feel like flying is like 50% of creatures.
Yeah.
I think that's a safe number.
Just like in our meta?
In our meta, I think.
Yeah.
It's like 50% of creatures have flying. Sigarda's got flying. Flip a coin. You can probably find a place for her to get in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she's pretty good, but this is where she really shines because I mentioned before that my biggest problem with Voltron in our meta is because Benjamin likes to do sacrifice effects. I mean, Travis is guilty, and Randy, we're all guilty of this, but Benjamin's got the reputation, making me sacrifice my biggest creature. So it doesn't matter if I have, indestructible, hexproof, whatever. It's getting sacrificed, and I have to redo all of this again. So her ability, flying hexproof, and then she's got spells and abilities your opponent's control can't cause you to sacrifice permanents. Oops.
Oh, good.
Oops. Looks like she's staying around. Oops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. So that is just a whole section of worries that you don't have if you play Sigarda, Host of Herons. Benjamin, pick another one.
All right. Well, my favorite one on here, other than Rafik, of course, is Yargle and Multani. It's in my favorite colors. It'll get you there. So Yargle and Multani.
It'll get you there. The quote from the episode.
It's a 6 mana, 18/6. So you 3 black, green for a legendary Frog Spirit Elemental. Has no abilities, but it has 18 power. So you stick a grafted war gear on it, and it's a 1-shot kill, right? So there's lots of ways to. Hey, Travis mentioned the giant growth earlier. They'll never see it coming.
It's true. Combat trick Yargle.
So yeah, I mean one of my favorite equipment in any Voltron deck is a Loxodon Warhammer. That puts it at 21 power, and
plus
you're gaining
3/0.
Yep, and trample and lifelink. So there you go. They have to throw creatures in front of it, or they die. And otherwise, right? It's gaining you that 21 life. You're still getting in. It's a very, very fast clock.
Yeah, I do think. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say it's one of the only creatures I think we're gonna mention that's only a 2-turn clock instead of 3.
Yeah, or even maybe possibly a 1.
Yeah.
But I feel like with this deck, I feel like it's got 18. It doesn't matter what it does. The 18/6. It's so easy to get 21 from there. Like how many like +3s can you get?
Yeah,
it's so easy.
So
I feel like you're gonna have a hard time getting set up because people are every time you try to cast it, hits the field, gone before you can attach anything or do anything to it. So
yeah, you give one round of priority around the table, and somebody wants Yargle and Multani gone.
Yeah.
Make sure you got a Swiftfoot boots ready.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next one I want to hit was one of our deck building challenges from last year. Uriel the Mist Stalker.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, man, he's not Rafik, but he is an early Voltron.
He's one of the OGs.
He is one of the OGs.
He's in the hallowed halls of Valhalla.
Yeah, exactly. 2 red, green, white. This is the first red guy we've seen so far. And red has some very aggressive auras in it, which is a lot of fun because you're going to get more power boosts than you would from white auras in general. So red is a lot of fun. Uriel the Miststalker is a 5/5 beast for 5. He's got hexproof. Awesome. Like to just have it stapled on the body is great. And then the second ability, Uriel the Miststalker gets +2/+2 for each aura attached to it. So this built-in hexproof and then a huge power buff for each aura that gets attached to him. A single aura, no matter what it has, gets him to 7, which is our magic number for power. And it can be anything you want.
I mean, it gets out of control so fast when you have these cheap little 1 or 2 little auras or whatever. He's getting +4 now from 2 auras, and then you throw on like an ancestral mask or something, where he just goes through the roof, and it's like you have to respect this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And white and green are full of these cards like Spirit Mantle that say here's an effect and +1/+1 for no reason. Well, now with Uriel, all of those +1/+1 for no reason are +3/+3 instead. So a card like Spirit Mantle is +3/+3 protection from creatures for 2 mana. That is an insane deal.
Yeah.
To make a guy unblockable. And now he's got that magic number.
Yeah. And because he leans on auras as hard as he does, the deck kind of builds itself in a way that you want to run a lot of the Enchantress stuff that we talked about earlier with all the card draw. So it's green and white especially. Those are a lot of good aura colors. And it's going to supercharge your card draw. Your auras are going to get stronger. Having red green auras, that's where the big money is. So he's got a lot going for him.
That's where the power is going to just ramp up with those red and green auras. And, of course, his own ability. So, yeah, Uriel the Miststalker, very, very cool. I'll go ahead and hit Wyleth, Soul of Steel. While we're talking red, let's shift away from auras and talk about equipment for a little bit. Wyleth, Soul of Steel is 1 red, white, a human warrior, 2/2, and he has trample. This commander was also the head of a commander deck from Commander Legends. His ability says, whenever Wyleth Soul of Steel attacks, draw a card for each aura and equipment attached to it. So this is a significant source of burst card draw every turn that you can get an attack off, which is a huge weakness of Boros in general. It doesn't have to be Boros Voltron. Like, all Boros decks kind of struggle for card draw in general. And Wyleth gets around that by saying, hey, give me 2 or 3 auras and equipment, and I can draw you 2 or 3 cards a turn. Which is what you need. You got to keep that deck velocity up, and Wyleth can do it. He's got his built-in trample, and then you're just hoping that your other aura and equipment can get him around everything else and protect him.
All right. I want to do a special shout out to Zergo Helm Smasher. Zergo is a really interesting commander because it's a way to do Voltron in a much more controlling way. A lot of these are just make your creature big and smash in, and Zergo is already big. He's a 7/2, so he's 2 red, white, black for an orc warrior. 7/2, and he has haste. And he attacks each combat if able. No problem, you're doing that anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. He has indestructible as long as it's your turn. So you're happy to swing in there. And then whenever a creature dealt damage by Zergo Helm Smasher this turn dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Zergo Helm Smasher. So while they're chump blocking, he's getting bigger. He starts at the magic number of 7. So he's a 3-turn clock, and he has haste. So as soon as you play him, he has haste and indestructible. You're swinging immediately. If there's somebody open, great. You're getting those hits in. If there's nobody open, you swing at somebody who's got to throw somebody in front of him. And if they do, he gets bigger. But what makes him really cool as far as being a controlling deck is that red, white, black are the sweeper colors. You play your Wrath of God, you play your Blasphemous Act. Yep, yeah. Damnation, whatever it is, you get in, you sweep the board, or first, so it's your turn, he has indestructible, you sweep the board, everybody's open.
Everybody's
open. So now you get in there. So it's one of those things where you can keep the board clear. He solves the problem of lack of defense because you're able to wipe the board while he's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've seen decks like that. It's the way to go with Zergo Helm Smasher. He does benefit from protection. You still want to put some hexproof and indestructible on him so that people aren't killing him on their turns. But
because he would die to a lightning bolt if someone felt inclined to.
Yeah.
With his 2 toughness.
But yeah, that's so he cares about keywords more than anything else. And I think that's useful to think about as far as what equipment are you going to put on him, stuff like that. But you can just fill your deck with board wipes, and then you're like, once I play him, we're on a 9-turn clock. So
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Exactly.
Well, since you mentioned keywords, let me tell you about the king of keywords. This is the Indominus Rex Alpha. It's green, and then hybrid blue-black, and then 1. For a dinosaur mutant 6/6. As he enters the battlefield, discard any number of creature cards. It enters with a flying counter on it if a card discarded this way has flying. The same is true for first strike, double strike, death touch, hexproof, haste, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, and vigilance. And then when it actually enters the battlefield, draw a card for each counter on it. So you want to build the deck in a way where you have a lot of cheap little garbage creatures that have your little keywords. Cards you probably wouldn't normally play, but maybe they have like 2 or 3 keywords on them, whatever, and you'll draw 3 cards.
If you discard Gurmag Swiftwing, which is just like a 2-mana bat, I think, that has haste, flying.
Yeah, if you can get something with more than 1 keyword,
Yeah,
you're drawing
discard
more than you're giving.
Exactly. Yeah. You discard your 1 card, he comes in with 3 keywords, and you draw 3 cards. Worth it.
Yeah, and it's already a 6/6, so getting a +1/+1 counter from something is not impossible. And then a deck like this wants to, since it's throwing a lot of creatures in the graveyard, you want to have a lot of reanimation in there. So start bringing back, maybe you pitched a 12 CMC creature to the graveyard because you couldn't cast it this time. Maybe you get it back out for 2 mana or 4 mana or something like that, and then maybe some life or something. So it can kind of help you kind of leapfrog into some better stuff real quick. And also having your hand full of new protection spells or buff spells or whatever.
I am so glad that this came up on our list. It's an option not in white. So if you're getting into Magic and you just don't feel like white is your color, which is fair. Like, white does have a lot of weaknesses. It's a strong Voltron color, but it's not great in card draw. But what you have here is certainly a Voltron option because you're going to get this mutated dinosaur freak mutant with lots of keywords, but by not relying on white. I think it's cool that we got some blue and black in here for all the cool creatures they have, rather than their enchantments or their equipment. This is a very different kind of Voltron deck. And I think even beginners could, because you don't need a bunch of rares, I don't think, to make this.
Yeah, I feel like good. You could use a lot of draft chaff.
Yeah, you could use a lot of draft chaff, a shoestring budget to make a really cool Indominus Rex alpha deck. Cool. So those were some commanders that we think are good for beginners to experiment with the Voltron archetype. If you are looking for a deck that is going to give you an opportunity to test out some of these strategies and give you that rush, that adrenaline feeling of stepping into the cockpit of your Jaeger, these are some commanders that can do that for you. And we want to finish this episode off by giving a special mention to the Voltrons of our past. We have all experimented with the Voltron archetype and done it in our own weird, quirky, fun ways. And it all started from these beginners. I had Sigarda and Uriel. Benjamin had Rafik. But it's not on this list, but one of Derek's first commander decks was Omnath Locus of Mana.
Yes.
A Voltron deck. That mono green Voltron.
Yeah.
It was about getting Omnath to have the highest power he could. And, nonstop green mana.
Yes.
And
ramping becomes my power.
Exactly. Green mana becomes Omnath's power. So we've all done traditional Voltron, and these decks that we're going to talk about now are some special kind of creative or innovative Voltrons that we've done in our past. And Benjamin, go ahead and start us off.
So one of my earliest decks, and still one I think is one of my more powerful decks, is a Voltron deck built around Korlash, Heir to Blackblade. It's a 4 mana, it costs 2 black for a zombie warrior, and his power and toughness are each equal to the number of swamps you control, and he has pay 1 and a black to regenerate. Regenerate's not quite as good as Indestructible. You do have to keep the mana up to make sure he doesn't die, and a lot of the older spells say can't be regenerated, which kind of gets around that, like Wrath of God. He does also have a Grandeur ability that you can't use.
This is a very hipster Voltron.
Yeah. And sure. I do think that's something a lot of beginners kind of get caught up on, is if they see an ability on a card that can't be used in Commander, they just think, I'm not going to put it in there. But Korlash is powerful. He has the ability to survive destruction with Regenerate, and he has the ability to get huge. So what makes this one interesting was how I built this without a lot of the pump spells, because ramp spells were pump spells, right? I just needed to put swamps into play. And so I have a lot of things that fetch out swamps, right? Armillary Sphere, Expedition Map, Liliana of the Dark Realms, right? I'm just looking for swamps and putting them into play. Yeah. Making sure, and the Burnished Heart, right? I wouldn't play Burnished Heart these days.
One of the most winningest cards.
Yeah, I wouldn't play it these days, except in this one where it's one of the only ways to get swamps into play. It gets me 2 swamps. So the only other creatures I play, besides the ones that fetch me mana, or the one I have, Crypt Gask and Arcana Revenant, the ones that care about those, are alternative core lashes. So I have things like Squelching Leeches and Liliana's Shade, or
isn't there a horse, like a shadow
horse? Oh, that's the one. Nightmare. So I have other cards that also get big from the number of swamps I have, and then I have equipment that does that. So Nightmare Lash, your creature gets +1/+1 for each swamp you control, right? Lash
Stratascythe,
Lash Wraith,
Blackblade Reforged.
That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah.
So it's easy on the mana because it's almost entirely swamps. You're not playing a whole lot of special lands because you need swamps, right? You're not. So this is a good one, I think, for beginners who are on a budget because Lash Wraith is only 68 cents. The more expensive cards now, Sword of the Animus can get on the expensive side, but look, you're just looking for ways to get swamps into play. And the nice thing is, because you're getting so much mana, you're almost always going to have that mana up to regenerate Core Lash. So yeah, he's fun. He gives you access to a lot of really cool mono black spells, right? If you're wanting to get expensive, Torment of Hailfire is a way you can finish. Yep. That's not pure. Exsanguinate. Yep.
Ways you can win without attacking with Core Lash.
Yeah, so it has
really open up to you when you've got 30 black mana.
Exactly.
I just thought it was so cool to be mono black. Like, that's just, you don't expect mono black to be doing what a normal Voltron does, artifacts and enchantments. But like you said, you only even had a few artifacts and enchantments in there. The rest was just ramp, because ramp is what makes him more powerful.
And I think ramp in just Voltron in general is super key, because your guy will get removed, and you're going to need to keep getting him out as soon as possible every time he's not on the board.
Yeah.
So plays right into that strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I love playing against Core Lash every time. That fear is something that keeps me coming back to the game. All right, the next one is Derek.
Yeah, so we mentioned it earlier. My very first deck I ever made was a Omnath Locus of Mana, which is the mono green one that, wants to store green mana to make Omnath tougher. And I had that deck for a while, and then I turned it into this Thrun Breaker of Silence. This is the one from March of Machines, I think. It's green 3 for a Troll Shaman 5/5. It's got a lot going on, so this spell can't be countered. Awesome. Love that. I mean, nothing hurts more than trying to cast your commander and then it's like, actually, you're going to have to wait and pay 2 more.
It feels so bad when that happens.
Trample. That's got a native keyword there. Love that. This is my favorite stuff. Thrun Breaker of Silence can't be the target of non-green spells your opponents control or abilities from non-green sources your opponents control. So, green or nothing.
Yeah.
Green or nothing, yeah.
And then finally, he's got, as long as it's your turn, he has Indestructible.
Yeah, he's not done yet. He's also Zergo.
Yeah.
So you're not afraid to swing with him. Yeah.
Yeah, not afraid to swing with them. You don't have much to fear on your turn. The things you have to worry about is usually on Benjamin's turn or something where, the edict effect is coming.
Those sacrifice effects are coming, yeah.
Yeah. This was one of the last decks I think I built before I really kind of leveled up in my mind about being a better deck builder. I don't know, something clicked after I built this deck where I'm like, hey, my decks have been getting a lot better. And I think it was the flaws from this deck that made me learn is that I think this deck suffers the most from lack of card draw. And being in green, there's tons of enchantments that I should have put, the enchantresses in that draw the cards when I play the enchantments to just kind of keep the flow coming with cards. But yeah, it's got a lot of fun stuff. I'm just looking at it. I haven't touched this deck in maybe a year or more. It says I got 17 artifacts and 15 enchantments, so almost an even split. I've got things like Eldrazi Conscription, a little pet card of mine, 8 mana for an Eldrazi aura that gives +10/+10, gives it trample and Annihilator too, which when it attacks, defending players sacrifices 2 permanents. Fun one for me. We get stuff like Kinrith's Transformation, Song of the Dryads, a lot of green, removal. Let's see, what are the fun... Assault Suit. This is, I guess, the key to this deck is I want to... So Assault Suit's 4 mana. That's an equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has haste, can't attack you or a planeswalker you control, and can't be sacrificed. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may have that player gain control of equipped creature until end of turn. If you do, untap it, and it costs 3 to equip. So my goal was to equip Assault Suit to Thrun. So now he's that Magic 7 that we've been talking about. And then because he gets, as long as it's your turn, Thrun has Indestructible. After I swing, I give it to the next person in line. And now they have to swing. He's got Indestructible too. He still has Indestructible. So he's still putting pressure on the other 2 opponents. And then we do it to the next one. And then we do it to the next one. And then it comes back to me for me to do it to, whoever I need to. But
that Assault Suit gives him Indestructible for everyone's turn.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like you don't have to worry about losing it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he can't be sacrificed, which is, again, like I was talking about with Benjamin's Edith effects, is a major flaw, I guess, or that exhaust port on the Death Star. Yeah. So this is a nice, it makes my weakest spot into one of my strongest spots, because now Thrun is hitting someone every single turn. And there's nothing really they can do about it. I mean, they can block it.
That is awesome, because that 3-turn clock for each person, you get to use other people's turns.
Yes.
To take other people's clock down.
Yeah, you kind of throw the knife in the middle of the brawl. You say, "Die for the knife!" It's a card that preys upon people's the meta of the game at that point, where there's a lot of bad blood between these 2 players, so they'll start swinging at each other.
Yeah.
So that's fun. And another pet card I have, there's some stuff I have to kind of slow down and protect myself, is Hall of Gemstone, green 1. It's an enchantment. During each player's upkeep, that player chooses the color. So being mono green, I always choose green. And then until end of turn, each mana producing land produces mana of the chosen color instead. So I pick green, and I guess it would help them to get the green mana they need to target Thrun, but on my turn,
only if they have green spells to cast.
Yeah, only if they have green spells, which they could have done anyways. But then once it's their turn, they have to pick one of their colors. Maybe they have 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and then they have to choose what cards they want to do. And if it's not green, then I don't tell you can't target Thrun this turn.
Yeah.
And then keep it moving on down the line until it's my turn again.
If you want to do anything else that's not green, then Derek gets to just sit back.
Yeah, I'll just take a nap. Rest on my laurels. But yeah, that's Thrun. He's a lot of fun. I need to really go back through and update him.
Yeah, do a few card draw updates, and I'd bet he'd be right back to full steam.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what I'll do.
Awesome. So I've already talked about Uriel the Miststalker, Sigarda Host of Herons. I enjoy the Voltron archetype a lot. But the Voltron from my past that I'm going to bring up this was a major challenge, because it eliminated a huge suite of Voltron cards I would normally use. This is Haktos the Unscarred. Haktos the Unscarred costs red, white, which has bitten me in the butt before, because he has so much colored mana requirements. But he is a 6/1 human warrior. He attacks each combat if able. Now, someone would see that 1 toughness and go, "What? How does he survive?" Well, it all starts right here. As Haktos enters the battlefield, choose 2, 3, or 4 at random. Haktos has protection from each converted mana cost other than the chosen number. This automatically gives him protection from mana cost 1 and 0, so tokens can never block him. It also automatically gives him protection from anything 5 and up, so I don't have to worry about any of their biggest creatures either.
Yep. No blasphemous act.
No blasphemous act. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff either. Protection means what all is protection? Damage, equip,
enchant,
block, target,
or enchant.
Okay. Equip or enchant. Yeah, okay. So, what makes this a challenge is that I can't fill the deck with auras or equipments.
Because you never know.
Because I never know which one he's going to have protection from. If he has protection from 2, 3, protection from 3 is any number of good swords.
Yeah.
That I would normally put in a Voltron deck. So if I roll 3 on that D4, usually we roll a D4, and if it's a 1, I re-roll it. So if I roll 3, well, a third of the cards I would put in a normal Voltron deck I can't use. So I can't go that route building, because I can't hope that he rolls the right number. That's not a reasonable way to build this deck. So instead, I built Haktos using global enchantments. Global in the way that they affect all of my creatures instead of just one.
Yeah, like
so
always watching.
What'd you say?
Like always watching.
Yeah, exactly. Like always watching, which gives all your non-token creatures +1/+1 in vigilance. Well, Haktos does see that because it's not targeting him, and he gets the bonus. True Conviction gives your creatures double strike and lifelink. So Haktos does see that, and he gets the double strike and lifelink. There's an enchantment from Lord of the Rings, Rising of the Day.
Yeah, okay.
2 in a red, creatures you control have haste, legendary creatures you control get +1/+0. Guys, giving Haktos a single +1 gets him to that magic number. And so many of these global enchantments that I'm using are anthems. So he gets powerful enough very quick. And what was so interesting about this deck was actually, so I've got this good number of these global enchantments. Well, I decided to just put some surprised burst token army cards in there. Dang it, I wish I remembered the names of these. Benjamin, what's the one X and a white create a number of soldiers at instant speed? I think it's from Tarkir.
Reddy would know this.
He would. Secure the Wastes.
Secure the Wastes. That's exactly right. So I've got a whole suite of spells that are like Secure the Wastes. I think I have White Sun Twilight, White Sun Zenith, because if at instant speed, or even not at instant speed, if I have one of these haste enablers out, but I can make an army that's all getting whatever buffs Haktos was getting. Like, I can send Haktos to one person, and I can send the army to another person. So this was a really fun Voltron deck to make. It did have to go through a couple iterations before I got it to this power up Haktos, back him up with an army. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Which I found very interesting. It took me a while to get to there, and I've been close multiple times to taking Haktos apart. But usually when I do that, I like to give that deck one last game and say, if it doesn't do well, I'm taking it apart. And every time I've done that for Haktos, he wins. So
yeah, I specifically remember last time we played against this, like, all right, this is the last outing. I'm gonna take him apart, and then sure enough,
Haktos is the victor.
I don't know if this is in your deck, but I'm thinking of those red enchantments that like double damage, triple damage, like City on Fire.
I think I have several.
Like
I think I have at least 2 or 3 that say if a red source you control deals damage, it deals double that damage.
Yeah, I mean, you probably can't put any equipment on. You can't count on putting any equipment on that gives double strike or anything, but that's the way to do it.
But yeah, so True Conviction can give him double strike, and then a couple of those red enchantments that double the damage you're dealing. I think I've got Torbran in here.
Yeah.
So he's a red source, and he's not targeting Haktos. So that bumps his power to 8, basically. You know, just a number of those things where it doesn't matter what creature you've got. Haktos is like the biggest one, but all of those buffs are going to apply to any number of tokens too. So it's a really cool way of going tall with one and wide with a bunch of others all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Ton of fun, and definitely a huge challenge to say I'm going to build Voltron without any of the Voltron staples.
Yeah.
Like, it was very difficult, but a ton of fun. So we had the plan, listener, to also provide a huge selection of cards that are essential for the Voltron archetype. We've been recording for a long time. If you're listening, you already know this is a longer episode than normal. And so we are going to make a separate episode for these essential cards. So when you see Voltron in the title and you're looking for part 2 of the Voltron deck episode, stay tuned. Stay tuned to an upcoming episode where we show off tons of essential cards for the Voltron archetype, especially for beginners. Is there anything you guys want to add about the Voltron archetype or how much fun it is to play or the challenges that come with it?
I think it's an interesting. I mean, I think starting out, people are going to have like that. Voltron's going to be the thing they probably naturally gravitate towards. And while it does have, several large pitfalls, there are cards being printed every day by Wizards that try to push the envelope and patch some holes in unique ways. I think there is a Voltron commander out there for you. You just have to look for it, and then, stay tuned for our ideas for how to find good cards that would fit in these categories.
Yeah, I think everyone should have a Voltron deck in their library of decks.
Yeah. There are significant podcasters and content creators out there with the initials JLK that believe Voltron is an unviable strategy. They believe that commander damage should not even be a relevant thing to keep track of in Magic the Gathering. My Mythical Meta disagrees because, nearly every game we make decisions based on the fact that commander damage exists. Because of that magic number 7, if it comes in 3 times, I'm gone. So I've got to make a different choice on attack number 3. It affects our games all the time. And I think it can have a significant presence in your meta too if you build it.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know what to add there.
Yeah.
We My Mythical Meta, we are, just casual friends having casual fun. So, obviously combo, it wouldn't keep up with combo decks. I don't think there's going to be a Voltron commander that would ever be in bracket 5. Maybe 4,
Yeah,
I don't
true.
know.
Yeah.
But
true.
I think
you can make a 4.
Voltron does have its places. Like it is a direct counter to life gain decks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like
so,
in the giant rock paper scissors wheel of strategies in Magic,
yeah,
Voltron does have a place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
if no one in your meta is running it, start doing life gain and make them regret not having to. Man, I wish my commander didn't do 2 damage or 3 damage. I need to really do something about this. So
cool. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. Benjamin, what's our email address?
mymythicalmeta@gmail.com.
Our Patreon, you can find us at patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. Look for these deck lists for Haktos, Thrun, Breaker of Silence, and Korlash Heir to Blackblade. Look for these deck lists in the description. Let us know what you think. Thank you so much. Derek, Benjamin, as always, thank you guys so much for being my great friends. Adios.
Later, guys.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Welcome to My Mythical Meta, your gaming podcast that's actually your Friendship is Magic podcast. We're talking about Magic again.
And we'll be talking about Magic forever.
Probably so,
It's probably not going to change. Although
stick
we
some
do
friendship in
have
there.
a cool series in the works where we will only tangentially talk about Magic. We did our first R&D session for that last weekend.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you know what we're talking about now.
Yeah, and that'll be fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a little something special in the pipeline. My name is Travis, and I'm joined this week by my brother Benjamin.
Hello.
And Derek. We're so glad to be back. We are continuing our Essential Concepts series today with part 2 of our Voltron strategy. In this episode, we're going to talk about the actual cards that are staples of the Voltron archetype. Just as a reminder, we are talking about EDH, We are talking about Commander, so we're going to be talking about cards throughout the history of Magic the Gathering. We're not going to be talking about Voltron in Standard or in Legacy or Vintage or whatever, which I guess Legacy and Vintage, I guess the cards would be kind of the same, right?
Yeah,
I
mostly.
don't know
But
who's playing Voltron in Legacy, though.
Yeah, if you're playing an Infect deck or a Bogle's deck or a Hammer
that's
Time deck, something like that in those bigger formats, you're going to be wanting a whole different set of cards. And there's good cards out there, and they're worth playing, but that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, our focus is pretty much always going to be for our Commander players. Check out the link in the corner, whichever corner it is. We divide our deck building into essential categories. If you've watched any of our deck techs in the past, you know these categories by heart. And frankly, if you've watched any other Magic content, it's generally the same deck building categories that all of them have. Ramp, card draw, interaction, recursion, finishers, synergy. That's the kind of categories that we generally work with. And today, we're going to be going through cards in each of those categories that have synergy with a Voltron strategy. What kind of cards and what kind of deck building are we trying to promote here at My Mythical Meta?
Yeah, so generally I like you're not always going to pick for a fun game the most optimal cards for your build. Some of these are optimal, and we'll talk about that. But if you have a ramp package for your deck, you could do all of the 1 and 2 mana ramp spells, and often I will recommend that. But if there are flavorful, on point, synergistic ramp cards that maybe just aren't perfectly optimized, sometimes it's still better for you, both from a fun perspective and from a it triggers all my other stuff perspective, to put it in there anyway. An example that I want to give you here is Astral Cornucopia, right? It's a 3 mana at its quickest, a 3 mana rock that, and there's, if you're gonna play a 3 mana rock, there's way better ones than it, unless you're doing a charge counter.
When you play it.
Yeah, it's a mana lift
which
when you
is
play
the
it.
worst mana rock out there.
Yeah, but if you're playing with a proliferate deck, a charge counter deck, an X matters deck, it might be worth putting in there. It will overperform and you'll have more fun. And so a lot of these cards that we talk about in each category, they may not be the optimal card in every situation, but you'll have more fun. They'll trigger all your stuff. They will overperform in Voltron. So that's what that's what I wanted to point out.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're getting at. The cards in here will serve the Voltron strategy well. They're going to help your commander or whatever Voltron you've chosen do its job, while also serving your other deck's required needs.
Yeah. And that's
what we hope to accomplish with today's episode.
Yeah. And almost any deck building guide will tell you that if you want your deck to feel like it has a certain theme, you'll need about 30 cards in your deck to hit that theme. Well, if your other categories, your ramp, your card draw, your interaction, are also in that theme, you hit that 30 number much easier and can go way past it. So it gives you more flexibility in deck building if a ramp spell also helps your Voltron, because we're talking about Voltron today.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, Patreon shout out to Celery.
Celery! Woo!
Celery.
What about you, Celery?
We're so glad you're here, Celery. Listeners, for more information about our Patreon perks, please check out patreon.com/MyMythicalMeta. Benjamin, where can people contact us directly with questions or topic requests or news from the Warfront posts?
Well, they could buy something from Eldorado Gaming and then send us messages through but really, you can contact us at mymythicalmeta@gmail.com and we can answer your questions. If you want to arrange to get on the show, you have a deck tech question, anything, send us an email.
Send us an email. All right. Let's get into part 2 of our Voltron Essential Concepts series episode. And the first category that we're going to talk about is actually lands. There is a set of lands that we think help to facilitate the Voltron strategy. And if your deck, if your color identity, if your mana base has room for it, we think you should give these lands a shot. All of the lands we're talking about today tapped for colorless. And that's why we're saying that you should consider what your mana base can handle in terms of adding these lands to your deck. But Benjamin, start us off with a spicy pick.
Cathedral of War is a colorless land. It enters the battlefield tapped, so something to consider. But it has Exalted. So when you're getting in there with your Voltron, usually your commander, it'll just give it +1/+1. Sometimes that pushes that 6/6 to a 7/7 and gets you in that. If you watched our last episode over there, probably. If you watched our last episode, hopefully you remember that 7 is a magic number, and of course 11 is a magic number. If that +1/+1 can make a difference sometimes, so
Absolutely.
It's fun and it's free. It requires no investment other than coming in tapped and providing colorless. So not for every deck. You're not going to stick it in your 3 to 5 color decks, but if you're playing a 2 mana or 2 color Voltron or less, I think you can stick it in there.
Yeah. This next land I have in my Rakdos Demon Tribal deck. Now, that deck is by no means a Voltron deck, but my Demon Tribal, demons love to have you pay life, which makes this land really good. And we did talk in our last episode about how giving lifelink to your commander can be a huge defensive buff. This is Witch's Clinic. Witch's Clinic taps for colorless, comes in untapped, and you can pay 2 and tap it. Target commander gains lifelink until end of turn. So you can straight up for real cheap. It says 2 and tap it, so basically for 3, you can give your commander lifelink. Right along with this, there's another land called Vault of the Archangel that also comes in untapped, taps for colorless, and if you pay 2 white, black, and tap it, so 5 total, all the creatures you control gain both Death Touch and lifelink. I mean, 5's not nothing, but it's pretty reasonable to give all of your creatures Death Touch and lifelink on a land. Yeah. That's pretty good.
If your commander has trample, then that Death Touch can make a huge
if your
difference.
commander's got trample, beautiful. Death Touch plus trample is really a way to put your opponents on the back foot. They are going to feel helpless when a single point of damage is enough to just be able to machine gun their creatures down and to feel helpless when blocking. It just feels so good. So lifelink is a great defensive buffer. Death Touch is great on offense. So Vault of the Archangel is going to be great for your Voltron. You're going to need both anyway.
These next two kind of go hand in hand. They're both trying to accomplish the same thing. Kessig Wolf Run, it's a land that taps for colorless, or you can do green-red and then X, and then tap the land itself, where target creature gets +X/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. And then Rogue's Passage, another land that taps for colorless, or pay 4 and then tap the land, so 5 total. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. These both want to do the same thing, which is get your large creature in for big damage. Kessig Wolf Run has the red-green, it has to be in at least a red-green deck, so you might want to use Rogue's Passage for other things. But these are both, trying to get those big kind of commander hits. For instance, my Geshath deck is not really a Voltron deck, but Geshath is the most important thing I can do in that deck.
He has power 7.
And he has power 7. And
without trying or needing to be, he is a Voltron.
Yeah. I ended up winning the game with Kessig Wolf Run because I didn't have anything I could do in my hand. I just pumped it all into Kessig Wolf Run, and I just obliterated someone. And then I just put, 10 dinosaurs on the field that was just unmanageable for my opponents. These are really good for getting those commander triggers that care about doing damage or, what have you.
Combat damage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I want to note with Kessig Wolf Run that X can equal 0 if you want it to be.
Yeah.
To give your commander red, green, and tap, and give it trample.
Yeah.
Very nice to have on a land.
Absolutely. The number of times rogues...
there's also Skarg of the Rage Pits, which is like Kessig Wolf Run's little brother, which it taps for 1 colorless, or red-green, tap it, target creature gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. So if you're a baller on a budget, or maybe you want both of them, I don't know. If you're only in red and green, you can afford it with the mana base.
My Mythical Meta, sponsored by HP.
Yeah.
Not really.
Similar to Rogue's Passage is the Black Gate, which taps for black and can come in untapped if you pay 3 life. If you're attacking the player with the most life, you only have to pay 1 and a black and tap it to say that target creature can't be blocked by the player with the most life. So in a Voltron, you're not necessarily trying to pick off the weakest player. If you can get your commander in on the player that has the most life, all the better. right? Deal that commander damage and knock them out. The number of times Rogue's Passage has gotten people in our meta, right?
Everyone in our group.
Everyone. And you can sandbag it too, right? You just hold that in your hand until the turn you're ready to get in, and they're scrambling, they build their army, they're like, finally some blockers.
Not even
Rogue's
that.
Passage.
You could put it on the field like, maybe turn 3, turn 4. People will forget about it by turn 6.
Yeah.
Those 30-minute turns start coming around. It's been an hour since your last turn. I forgot what's over there. It's like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pay 5 and knock someone's head off.
All too common. So, like we said, if your deck's got the room for it, if your mana base can withstand a land that taps for colorless, and you're running Voltron, pick some of these up. Just toss it in there, because that extra added utility, that ability to get your commander in, the life gain, the exalted, the power boosts, these are all great ways to help your Voltron do what it needs to do.
I think also these cards are all less than $1. None of them are like good enough for like, more than $1.
Most of them have been reprinted into Oblivion. Rogue's Passage.
Yeah,
Black
Keswick
Gate
Wolf Run.
is $8.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
What?
because that one came out in Lord of the
yeah.
Rings. That's
Yeah,
a special case. Yeah.
It was a specifically Tales of Middle-earth commander card.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a special case.
All right, let's talk
So-
about ramp.
Gotta keep the lands coming. Benjamin, start us off.
Yeah, so the first are a category of equipment that when the equipped creature attacks, they let you search your library for a land and put them into play. So that's going to be Sword of the Animist, which costs 2 and then pay 2 to equip. Bitterhorn Nissa's Animus, which pay 3, costs 3 to equip, but it has living weapons. So you don't have to equip it to get that trigger. You can attack with the germ. It's a germ. But then once your germ dies, they take care of that. Stick it on your commander and keep going, right?
Yep.
And then the last one's going to be Sword of Hearth and Home, and we're going to mention several of these swords in this section. And actually, the swords are just really good. But Sword of Hearth and Home lets you flicker. If you have a utility creature, you can flicker it, but then it also lets you search for a basic land card and put it into play. And it costs 3 to cast and 2 to equip. So all 3 of those, you put them on a creature and you attack, or with Sword of Hearth and Home, you have to deal combat damage. One thing on these swords, the swords of X and Y, if you are in those colors, so in this case, Sword of Hearth and Home also provides protection from green and from white. Well, if you're in green and white and you're targeting your own creature with those spells, you've got green or white auras or green or white equipment, you're not going to want to use that. Right, so I actually cut it from my Roguerack and Ardenn Voltron deck because Ardenn is white, and once you put Sword of Hearth and Home, you can't target it with its ability. So just be careful, but it's really good. Green and white are some very common removal colors: Beast Within, Maelstrom Pulse, Swords to Plowshares. All those. There's a lot of good removal in green and white, and Sword of Hearth and Home lets you avoid that and get in, and then get you your ramp. So I like all 3 of those.
Yeah, it's just so good to be in a deck that's not green and be able to search out your lands.
Yeah.
Helps you
It's
recast
just so
your
nice
commander.
to have a colorless way to search out your land.
Yeah, and I mean, also we talked about it, but every one of these swords is good because they are hitting a lot of different categories that we're trying to do. And, each one does something different, but they're all giving protection from 2 colors. They're all giving a +2/+2 to your commander, which might be the difference between 3 hits, 4 hits, 2 hits, whatever it takes to get lethal. So, and they're all free on printer ink. So don't let them stop you.
But yeah. I love this next one. I'd never seen it before until we started making this list. It's called Staff of Titania. It costs 2 for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +X/+X, where X is the number of forests you control. And it equips for 3. Man, does this mean that I have to be running a green deck? No. Because of this other ability. Whenever equipped creature attacks, create a 1/1 green forest dryad land creature token. This equipment, whenever you attack, creates a land.
Yeah.
It creates a land directly onto your battlefield. Now, that land is also a creature. It's a 1/1 green dryad. So watch out for things like board wipes. But that automatically gives the creature +1/+1. That first dryad that gets created gives the creature +1/+1. So all the better if you are playing a green Voltron. But if you're not, it's going to start generating its own power buff and give you some land that you can start using.
Yeah, this card would go crazy in Thrun, being mono green.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
It's
hit
in my
you
Ashaya
because
deck.
Yeah, it was Thrun costs, or the new Thrun costs 5. So come in, I get another land. So +6/+6.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Plus that ramp, those new Dryad creatures.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like, obviously it's best in like a mono green deck or maybe even a 2-color deck, but there is that green Cabal or the green Urborg.
Gaia
like
something?
Gaia.
Not Gaia's Cradle, but Gaia.
Yeah, it's not Gaia's Cradle. It's some kind of
Gaia Heart of Yavimaya?
the Yavimaya sounds right. Cradle of Yavimaya or something.
Oh, I think it is just Yavimaya.
Well, while they're searching, it turns all your lands into forest. So
Yavimaya Cradle of Growth.
I knew Cradle was in there.
Yavimaya
so
Cradle of Growth can go in any deck, by the way.
Oh, can it?
You don't have to be in green.
Yeah, lands aren't colored.
Yeah, so as long as they don't have a symbol on them, and Yavimaya does not, it can go in any deck.
Nice. So yeah, turn all your lands into forest, and suddenly any deck apparently can get this massive boost.
Yeah.
Let's also do Sword of Forge and Frontier. Cost 3, 2 to equip. Crypt creature gets +2/+2 protection from red and from green this time. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn, and you may play an additional land this turn. It's got that red impulsive draw ability where it exiles 2 cards and you can cast them. So if you're looking for a little card draw, you can use this sword for that too. But then we've lumped it here for ramp because you can play an additional land each turn.
Yeah. And
when it deals combat damage.
Yeah. And it's getting those off the top of your deck. So if you have a land in the top 2, Sword of Forge and Frontier is going to let you play them. So you can kind of sandbag the lands in your hand if you want. It's kind of nice.
Yeah. It's very good.
One of my favorite cards I try to slam in every deck I have is Bear Umbra.
Oh yeah.
Green, and 2 for enchantment aura. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has whenever this creature attacks, untap all lands you control. And then it's got Umbra Armor, which is if enchanted creature would be destroyed, instead remove all damage from it and destroy this aura. So it'll take the hit for your commander one time.
Yeah.
This card is so rad,
It really is.
Let's say I'm playing Thrun. I go to attack, then I get to untap. Maybe I played that enchantment or that artifact and attached it that gave me all my forest or whatever. I'm tapped out, but then I can untap and then start playing other stuff that people aren't thinking about.
Yeah. Or leave up protection.
Huh?
Or it untaps your mana for protection.
Yes, yeah. I was going to say also combat tricks. This is an attack trigger, so before damage is done, you untap all your lands, you start blam, 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 +3, +5, +6, whatever kind of instance you got to blow someone out.
Mm-hmm. To consider it as like Bear Umbra costs 4, that's a substantial portion of your lands at any portion of the game. Mm-hmm. But you get to attack and get those four lands back. Like the turn you play it, it's free.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's great.
If you've got more than 4 lands, it can give you that. It gives you that mana back because let's say you can tap 6, spend 2 on something else and 4 on Bear Umbra, then untap all 6 of it. So you had access to 4 for Bear Umbra, 8 other mana. Yeah. Playing with 6 lands. So Bear Umbra ramped you the turn you played.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then doubles your mana every other turn. Yeah.
It's so much fun to just blow out main phase 1, attack, and then blow out main phase 2. Like the Timmy and me just loves Bear Umbra. It's so good.
Perfect card.
Yeah. Sword of Feast and Famine has a similar effect. Casts for 3, equips for 2, +2/+2 protection from black and green this time. When it deals combat damage, that player discards a card. Yikes. And you untap all lands you control. So it gives you that same untap all your lands that Bear Umbra does. Brutal.
I want to do these next ones. There's a whole bunch of equipment that when you deal combat damage, they create treasure tokens.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Gold Vein Pick, Diamond Pickaxe, Beamtown Beamstick. But the one I really want to focus on here is the Reaver Cleaver. It's amazing. It costs 2 in a red, so 3 for legendary artifact equipment. It says equipped creature gets +1/+1 and trample, though it's important. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, create that many treasure tokens. It costs 3 to equip. So it's a little pricey to get on to your commander, but the nice thing is, like, let's say you have something your commander costs 4. You play the Reaver Cleaver on turn 3. You play your commander on turn 4. Then when your commander is ready to attack on turn 5, you can equip the Reaver Cleaver and get in there. And it's giving it that trample, and then you're going to create a whole bunch of treasure tokens. Yeah. It's very nice.
There is a mana dork that is worth talking about. 2 mana dorks that are worth talking about in our Voltron episode, and that's Noble Hierarch and Ignoble Hierarch. Both of these mana dorks tap for 3 different colors. Noble Hierarch taps for green, white, or blue. Ignoble Hierarch taps for red, black, or green. So they both tap for green, and I think Ignoble Hierarch costs 1 green also.
Yeah.
But what's cool about Noble and Ignoble Hierarch is they have Exalted. So if your commander, if your Voltron is attacking alone, it's going to get that power buff. So if you're running Bant or Jund or 4 or 5 color, think about Noble and Ignoble Hierarch also.
One last one is Ordeal of Nylea. I wouldn't put it in every deck because it is slow. It costs 1 and a green for an enchantment aura. The enchant creature, whenever an enchanted creature attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then if it has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it, you sacrifice this aura. And when you sacrifice it, and we'll come back to this in a second, when you sacrifice it, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle. So I do like ramp that can pay for itself. So in this case, Ordeal of Nylea costs you and gets you 2. It doesn't say you have to sacrifice it to its own ability. So if you have anything that sacrifices permanent or sacrifices enchantments, or you can sacrifice Ordeal of Nylea immediately to get the lands. Also, if you have a commander or your Voltron is focused on counters, you can play Ordeal of Nylea and attack. It doesn't say you have to get 3 counters from it. If it has 3 or more counters on it, you sacrifice it. So for example, in Grismold, which is getting counters every turn a lot, Ordeal of Nylea, I'm going to pay 2. I'm going to get an additional counter swing and immediately get 2 lands the turn I play it. So like I said, it doesn't go in every deck, but if you have a way to trigger it the turn you play it, it's worth it.
Yeah, I'm thinking off the top of my head, this would be a good card for obviously anything that's like green enchantress that cares about auras and stuff like that. But Corvold, the first one, when he attacks, he can sacrifice. He needs to sacrifice a permanent to attack. So, get the counter from it, then sacrifice it, get the 2 lands, and get the counter from his ability. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I think you also draw a card when you do that too.
Yeah.
So because his deck, and then there's that mono green guy. What was he? Is the ogre I was talking to you guys about?
Yeah.
Kosei, Penitent Overlord.
Yeah. Be good for him since it's getting auras and
it's an enchantment and a counter.
Yeah, enchantment and a counter, so it's doubling up on his ability.
Yeah, I like it. Very good. That's our ramp section. The cards that we think are especially good and synergistic with the general Voltron thing. Now, like we said, some of these we would only use for certain types of Voltrons, like Ordeal of Nylea. So obviously, do your own deck building. You still need to consider whatever synergy and whatever strategy your Voltron is going with.
And this is also not
those are some ways to get ahead on mana.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Benjamin?
I'm saying this is not to say don't play Soul Ring either, right? You play your good cards too, but maybe consider switching out a Cultivate for a Sword of the Animist to get you there.
Yeah, absolutely. Our next major category is card draw. You've got to get that deck velocity. Like we always say, you need to be churning through your deck so that you can see the winning cards. And that's what this section is all about, is getting through your deck and seeing more and more cards. I'll go ahead and do this first one. We just talked about Ordeal of Nylea for lands. Ordeal of Thassa is for card draw. It's the same general thing. It costs 1 and a blue this time for an enchant creature aura, and it does the same thing. Whenever it attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on it, and if it has 3 or more +1/+1 counters, you sacrifice it. This time, when you sacrifice Ordeal of Thassa, draw 2 cards. So I would say the same thing that we just did with Ordeal of Nylea. You play this if you have another way to sack it early. You don't want to spend 3 turns hoping you'll get 3 attacks off with your Voltron in order to draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
But if you've got a way to sneak around that, either that sacrifice or that third +1/+1 counter, and you've got ways to speed that up, then this is good. 2 mana, 2 cards, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, usually the going rate for 1 card in blue is 2 mana. So getting a heck of a deal if you can sneak around the ability there. This next card, your boy loves a deal, and kind of my, I guess, claim to fame in the meta is that I like to cheat things out, big things out for free. Rishkar's Expertise, green, and 4 for sorcery. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. You may cast a spell with mana value 5 or less in your hand without paying its mana cost. Woo! I've never whiffed on this. Like, I'm in green, so most of my creatures are 6, 7, 8, power or whatever. And what a great card, because I don't know, you're getting ideally like 11 mana's worth of things. You get 6 mana for Rishkar's Expertise, and ideally you want to cast something that's at 5 for maximum value. Just a powerhouse of a card.
Yeah, like it's just so good.
Yeah.
To draw cards of whatever your most powerful thing is, be at 7 when you cast this. Be at power 7.
Yeah.
We have this card here if you're playing Voltron. So you've put all your effort into powering up one creature. That power's got to be high, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not running Rishkar's Expertise if my most powerful creature in my deck is power 4. Like I'm not paying 6 to. Well, do I pay 6 to draw 4 and then cast a 5-drop for free? I don't.
I mean, Rishkar's Expertise is good, but
so
you can't
good.
count. But it's powered up in a Voltron where instead of drawing 4, you're drawing 6, 7, 8. Yeah,
absolutely. It's powered up in a Voltron. That's why you want to play it. I love Momentous Fall. Yeah. It is 2 green for an instant. Guys, people are going to come for your Voltron. They're going to come for it. Every game, every time. And if you play with Benjamin, it doesn't matter how hexproof or warded up your commander is. Okay, they're going to make you sacrifice it instead. Momentous Fall says, I'll sacrifice it first. Okay, as an additional cost to cast Momentous Fall, you have to sacrifice a creature. And then you draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. It's going to get got. Might as well draw something off from it.
You might as well get yours.
Get yours. Yeah. Get what's coming to you so that you can get it back. So that you can start the train over again. Momentous Fall is really good. Probably really good if you're playing Yargle and Multani.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Well, I think you read the first part, but I don't know if you read the second part. Draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, and then you gain life equal to its toughness. Yeah. This was a hot little tech I had in my Omnath Locus of Mana deck. I have like a 10/10 Omnath. He himself is 1/1, so I play this in response to him dying, and now I've got 5 mana. I have 5 mana floating.
Yeah, so you got to spend.
Yeah, start dropping on the stuff like this, get my card back, and maybe I'll, well, I had to sacrifice him, but maybe I'll have something to save myself. Maybe they thought they were going to kill me, but now me getting life throws off their math.
Mm-hmm. Along the same lines, Greater Good does something similar. You sacrifice a creature. It's an enchantment that costs 2 green, just like Momentous Fall. You draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, but then you have to discard 3 cards. So you don't have to hold up the mana. You can play it early. Makes them not want to kill your creature, but
because they know you're just going to draw cards from it instead.
Yeah. But yeah, Momentous Fall, they're willing to do it. You get them to waste a removal spell, and then you draw a bunch of cards and gain a bunch of life. So I love it.
Yeah,
man. Any Go Tall deck that I make in green is always going to have these 2 cards: Hunter's Insight.
Always, every single time.
Always. They're so good. So Hunter's Insight is 2 and a green for an instant. It says choose target creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker this turn, draw that many cards. So a lot of these spells that care about the size of a creature or about dealing combat damage, people can see them coming, right? The nice thing about Hunter's Insight is it's an instant, and you can wait to see that whether or not you're going to get in. If they said no blocks, you're going to hit me for 7. You're like, all right, pay 3, draw 7 cards, right? And that's not to say that they can't respond, but it's so powerful to be able to draw cards equal to your commander's power because someone didn't block it or because it has trample and death touch or something. Hunter's Prowess is similar. It is a sorcery. It is telegraphed. It costs 4 and a green, so 5 for a sorcery. But until end of turn, target creature gets +3/+3 and trample. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw that many cards. So now it gives it a way to get in. It's got trample. It makes it +3/+3. You're going to be drawing a bunch of cards with Hunter's Prowess.
The only problem is that it costs so much with 5 mana, and it's a sorcery, which is super telegraphed.
Yeah.
but still,
Yeah, I find
a pretty
myself
good
not
card.
putting Hunter's Prowess in many decks.
Yeah, you
Just
gotta
because
have a
that's gonna
big
take
creature.
main phase 1 almost completely up.
Yeah.
And then it's it's that opportunity saying, okay, everybody's got a chance to stop me. And when there's 3 other players, somebody can stop you.
That's fair. I could see replacing this with Return of the Wild Speaker, as long as your commander's
easy.
not human. Return of the Wild Speaker is 4 and a green. Says either draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control, or non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 till end of turn. So it has that versatility where it can be a pump spell when you need it, but most of the time you're just gonna instant speed, pay 5, and draw cards equal to your draw a bunch of cards for 5. And I like that it's an instant. So normally I would take Rich Card's Expertise for the free card play, but Return of the Wild Speaker costs 1 less and it's instant speed. So there's value there.
Yeah.
So next we have, I guess these depend on, what type of Voltron you want to do. If you're doing like a mainly artifact or mainly enchantment or something like that, there's SRAM, Senior Edificer. He's white and 1 for a Dwarf Advisor 2/2. Whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card. He's a good engine that way. Comes out early. He's a good Voltron commander by himself. And then if you're doing the equipment route, there's Pure Steel Paladin, which is white, another early game drop. Human Knight 2/2. Whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. And then a little fun thing at the bottom here, Metalcraft, equipment you control have equipped 0 as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. That's super easy if you build it around it. We're talking Soul Rings, Arcane Signets, all that stuff. And then let's say you're doing enchantments. There are things like Sith's Harvest Hand, who is green-white. Again, another early game drop for a nymph. 1/2. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain 1 life and draw a card. I can't think off the top of my head, but I know there's more than just her that cares about enchantments coming in, drawing a card. There's lots of normal cards that.
Enchantress,
Verduran Enchantress,
Enchantress Present, Eidolon Blossom,
Satyr Enchanter.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of these. Yeah.
And that's something we mentioned in our first Voltron episode.
Yeah.
There is a lot of support for enchantments in this form. Plenty of card draw engines available for you if you're going to run enchantments or auras.
Yeah, the options are there for you guys to, kind of pick and choose what kind of flavor of Voltron you want to be.
Yeah. Benjamin mentioned earlier lots of equipment that has created treasure. There are also lots of equipment that allows you to what's called loot, which means draw a card, then discard a card. I know when I was a beginner player, I saw discard a card as just like a terrible cost that I did not want to pay, that I thought it was so bad to do. But the longer you play, the more you realize how great looting is, because there's almost always a better card in your deck somewhere. There's almost always a better hand of 7 that you could have. You want to always be looting. So the kind of signpost equipment that I'm going to show off here is Mask of Memory. It costs 2 for an equipment, and it equips for only 1. When equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw 2 cards, and if you do, discard a card. So you are up a card, you got to draw 2, and discard the worst card in your hand that you wouldn't have played anyway. But like I said, there's lots of equipment that does this. I think there's some boots that grant haste that do it. There's some boots that grant flying that do it. And I wish I could remember. It's probably like winged boots or something like that.
Boots of flying.
You know what? Let me search.
I mean, there's a bunch. There's like Paleontologist Pickaxe. Whenever it attacks, draw a card, then discard a card. The Ogre Head Helm.
Winged boots is... Whoa, y'all, this is really good. It should go in another section, but I'm going to throw it in here now. 1 and a blue for an equipment that equips for 1. Equipped creature has flying and ward 4.
Why even bother? It's just hexproof.
I mean, technically it's better than hexproof, because if they target you and can't pay the ward price, the spell's countered.
Yeah, but
now we're not as cutthroat as that, but if you're playing with some real
enchantments,
they'll get you on that one.
Sorry, it wasn't. So it's not winged boots.
No, it's Zephyr boots.
Is it winged sandals?
Zephyr boots.
Zephyr boots.
Yeah.
Zephyr boots. Flying. When it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, then discard a card. So this effect is out there, and y'all, it's good. I was surprised that blood tokens were good in the newest Innistrad set. But y'all, they're good. To discard a card and keep drawing, I think blood tokens were discard a card and then draw.
Yeah, not quite as good.
So I guess they're rummaging. But y'all, looting, rummaging, it's a good effect. It's deck velocity. You always want to see that next card. So I think Mask of Memory is really good.
Yeah, so the last class of cards, there's a whole bunch of auras that say when a creature deals damage or deals combat damage, draw a card. Usually it's to a player. So there's Combat Research, Curiosity, Keen Sense, Snake Umbra, Staggering Insight, a whole bunch of others.
Sixth Sense, I think.
Yep, Sixth Sense. There are two I really want to highlight. The first is Combat Research, which is just really good. It's cost blue for enchant creature aura. It says enchanted creature has when this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So the very basic effect, except it also has, as long as enchanted creature is legendary, it gets +1/+1 and has ward 1. All that for
Basically
1 mana.
hexproof.
Yeah.
For 1 mana, ward 1, +1/+1, and draw a card when it deals combat damage. That's really good.
That's really good.
Really
and this
good.
is an uncommon card,
Yeah.
like rarity-wise. Wow.
Just imagine that in Tuvasa the Sunlit.
Yeah, I mean, I use this in Ivy.
Yeah, and Ivy. But
my goodness.
Tuvasa the Sunlit Voltron, Ivy Mutate Crazy whatever it is Voltron. Ivy, Derek, your Ivy deck was so cool because I guess it's not Voltron, but it's
double
like
Voltron.
paired.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like paired Voltron almost. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, Combat Research is so good. Benjamin, you said there were two?
Yeah, I also want to talk about Snake Umbra.
Yeah.
Because it has Umbra armor, right? So it's the same thing, +1/+1, and whenever it deals combat damage, draw a card, except it costs 1 and a green. Right? 1 and a green or 2 and a green? No, it's 2 and a green.
Dang, 2 and a green.
But
God.
but it provides additional protection because it has that Umbra armor where if the creature would be destroyed, instead you get rid of the Snake Umbra and keep going. So I like the ones that provide additional protection while drawing you a card.
Yeah, for sure. So that's our card draw section. Let's move next to interaction. So we call interaction things like removal spells and board wipes. That's what we usually lump as interaction. Derek, start us off. What's one you want to hit?
Well, I mean, a card that's close to my heart. I don't know if it's it's not the best card on here or anything, but Ram Through. It's a cute little card. Green 1 for an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. If the creature you control has trample, excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. Getting trample in green is super easy already, so usually you're doing the second effect always. But man, talk about like, hey, they've got a problem creature that I can't deal with. Like they won't block, they won't attack. I can't kill it. So gotcha.
Ram Through.
And I mean, with the Voltron Commander, sometimes you get to like 10, 15 power. I don't, maybe even 20 power. It's not ridiculous. Maybe you're like, I gotta get this game over with, or I gotta like really wipe this player out before, maybe like you do this during combat phase when they say, I don't block or, whatever, or I'm blocking with this, that, or whatever. And you use this on a 1/1 creature, hit them for a lot of damage, and then you finish them off with your commander.
Yeah, with your combat step. You just mentioned in your description of Ram Through, like, it's not uncommon for our commanders or the creatures we control to get 15 or 20 power. And I wonder if listeners are like, wow, that seems crazy that they think it's easy to get to 20 power, or if they would agree. And as a way to kind of back up what Derek is saying, I want to point way back in the archives before we were doing video recording. So if you're interested in just listening to an audio podcast, we had a competitive league for about 6 months last year that we called the Ascension Classic, where we assigned point values to different achievements in each game. And getting a creature with power 20 or greater was worth 3 points for each match. And the other one that was also worth 3 points was getting 20 creatures on the board. So for our meta, again, this may not be for all commander players everywhere, but for our meta, that is just how we play. We build big armies and big creatures. And so for us, when we play together, Ram Through is a good card. It may not be a good card in every pod you play with, okay? Or with every deck you build. But the way we play, Ram Through is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say it's easy. It's not easy, but there are cards like we talked about the Staff of Titania, which gives you +X with number of forest. There's Black Blade Reforged. There are things that give you these huge bonuses,
Yeah.
like Ancestral's Mask or whatever.
Ancestral Mask.
Ancestral Mask, yeah. Like, it's not impossible. It's just the bigger your creature gets, the more likely it is to be a lightning rod for all the removals.
Precisely. Yeah.
Going along with this, like, what can I do when my creature gets power 20 or whatever? I love Chandra's Ignition.
Woo, yeah. Talk about finishing
It
a
is
game.
so good. Such a powerhouse in my Kresh the Blood-Braided deck, where Kresh is getting +1/+1 for each creature that dies. Oh my god. Chandra's Ignition. 3 red for a sorcery. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. So if your creature is already big enough, if it has power big enough, higher than somebody else's life total, Chandra's Ignition just finishes them off.
Yeah.
Like,
I used to have a
that's,
feather
like,
deck.
the board wipe is nice.
Yeah.
But to be able to just knock players out coincidentally, so good.
Yeah. I used to have a feather deck, and her thing is a spell has to target her or a creature or whatever for it to go back to your hand. And man, talk about a showstopper. Using this, wipe the board where only she's left.
And then you get it back.
in your hand.
Yeah, I put it back in my hand and just blam, blam, blam.
Wow.
That is disgusting. That's so good. Feather plus Chandra's Ignition. That's insane.
Yeah.
All right, Benjamin, your turn. Pick a good one.
All right. I'm kind of partial to the vow cycle, and then there's another cycle that's similar. What are they? That
Is it the impetuses?
impetuses.
goad?
There you go. Yeah. Okay. So these are available in every color. The vow cycle all say enchant creature, and enchanted creature gets a buff and can't attack you or a planeswalker you control. So, for example, Vow of Wildness costs 2 and a green for enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3, has trample, and can't attack you or a planeswalker you control. So these are modal. You can put them on your own creature, right? +3/+3 and trample is great on your Voltron.
Yeah.
So it's what you want, right? And so what if your Voltron needs to get bigger, if it's early on in the game and you haven't attached anything yet, and this is what you drew in your hand, play it. Your Voltron wasn't going to attack you or a planeswalker you control anyway. So that downside.
But also, if someone steals your commander, they wouldn't be able to hit you back with it.
That's right. Yeah, so it's kind of a built-in protection there. But you can also use this as a way, if someone's got, an indestructible, like a Blightsteel Colossus. They cheated a Blightsteel Colossus into play, and they're like, all right, it's coming.
Yeah.
Who can stop me?
Someone's about to die.
Yeah, you can stick your Vow of Wildness on someone else's creature, and then that creature can run amok. It's got +3/+3 and trample. It's taken out your opponents, but it can't come after you, so it's just got to sit there. So to me, that's better than removal, because it's helping your game plan. It's going to knock out your 2 other opponents, and then it still can't come after you.
Yeah.
So I like these as being able to do double duty there. Now
they can do what your Voltron wants, or they can protect you from somebody else's big threat.
Yeah. The impetuses aren't quite as good because it goads the creature, which means that after they've knocked out your opponents, they can come after you. And if you want to put it on your own creature, you're forced to attack. Now, normally that's not a problem. But every once in a while, you may decide that it's the best strategy to hold back your commander to block, and the impetuses wouldn't let you do that. So they're a little worse on both ends, right? They can attack you once they've taken out your opponents, and your own creature would be forced to attack when you play it. But they do provide, I think, some interesting bonuses as well, and they can at least stall the big creature until later. But I'd prefer the vows if I had to choose.
Yeah, I like them too. I'm going to hit a board wipe. A board wipe that is good, I think, for Voltron is the Mandate of Abaddon.
Mm-hmm.
Mandate of Abaddon is 3 and a black. Choose target creature you control. Destroy all creatures with power less than that creature's power. This is really nice because if you are the Voltron and your creature really is the strongest creature in the game, then you're going to succeed in wiping out every single other creature on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are some white board wipes that say each player picks 1 creature. I think one is called Single Combat, Divine Reckoning.
Fortunate Few.
Yeah, Tragic Arrogance.
So there are some others that do that effect, but they all leave your opponent with 1 creature too. Mandate of Abaddon says, no, I was the biggest. And so everyone else is gone. And I like that a lot.
And the nice thing is, even if someone does have a creature bigger than you, it still clears out all the little jump blockers. Now they have to block with serious stuff. You might be able to combat trick your way through it or whatever. So,
They might
yeah.
be more enticed now that someone's open to hit someone else instead. Or maybe they've got a Gashath and they want to get their trigger off or something like that.
Yeah.
Great point. Yeah. Derek, your turn.
Yeah, I mean, y'all know it's going to be Shadow Spear.
Yeah.
Artifact equipment for one colorless. It equips for 2. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Has trample and lifelink. And then I can pay 1.
So good.
Permanent your opponent's control. Lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Hey, does your meta run Avacyn Angel of Hope?
Like ours does.
Shut her down for 4 total mana.
Yeah.
Shut her down forever.
Yeah.
What's the even cheaper one? Bonds of Mortality?
Bonds
In
of
green?
Mortality. Yeah, it's green and 1, and I think it costs 1 green to get rid of at least indestructible. I don't know if it gets rid of hexproof. But yeah, giving you trample, lifelink.
It does.
It's helping you, and it's +1/+1. So it's making you bigger, helping you get in, and it's helping you survive crackback hits.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you got any problem like, oh, I've got to get rid of this creature, but they have their keywords that they're trying to protect with hexproof and indestructible, say not anymore. This card does a lot.
Not remove ward.
Dang. I don't know. Seems like ward might be better to me.
Oh, man. Yeah, I knew you were going to grab Shadow Spear. Like, so that second ability, pay 1, permanents your opponent's control, lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Obviously, that's just good. Like, it's good to be on the offense, to be able to pick off your opponent's pesky stuff. But if we're talking about Voltron, then cast for 1, equip for 2 to get +1/+1, trample, and lifelink. It's like you're getting
Most
a
of
third of a
Loxodon.
Loxodon Warhammer,
Yeah.
which is good. Like, those keywords are just so good.
Yeah.
For all the reasons that we talked about last Voltron episode. And then you just have that removal assistance tacked on there for no reason. It's just
Yeah.
awesome.
It's like anti-Voltron tech to put into your Voltron deck.
Yeah, it's also, it kind of deters people from, let's say that Avacyn Angel of Hope player wants to run all their board wipes. Well, now they're like, I don't want to because she cost 8 and they will activate that and she will die to my own board wipe. So,
Yes. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to group a bunch of these together. There are a lot of equipments. I think there's some enchantments too, but mainly equipments that say when you deal combat damage to a player, then you get to destroy something. There's Hammer of Ruin that says when you deal combat damage to a player, you destroy an equipment that player controls. There's Blazing Sunsteel, costs 1 in a red, equips for 4, gives your creature +1/+1 for each opponent you have. So that's better in Commander. Usually it'll give them +3. And it says when equipped creature is dealt damage, you deal that much damage to any target. This one is really fun because now if they block, you can do that damage to your opponent anyway, right? If they block your, with a 6/6 to prevent 6 trample damage, just go ahead and do it anyway, right? To your opponent. Or you say, hey, I need to get in with this creature, but I want to pick off that other creature. Will you throw a token in front of my creature so I can deal a bunch of damage over here? So you can play politics with it, or I guess it would deal 1 damage. But you can throw around damage this way, allow your opponents to sacrifice creatures to help you pick off targets. But yeah, it makes blocking your creature really difficult because if they throw enough in front of your creature to kill it, then you're about to spread a bunch of damage around.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that one.
Imagine
And you might as well just point it
wall.
all at the player you attacked and say, if you block with enough stuff to kill my creature, you die.
Yeah.
You are out. It's going to be the same as not blocking at all.
Right. It's like better unblockable, in my opinion, because you have the flexibility. Can I go ahead and do the last one too?
Yeah.
All right. This one is hard. You need a way to either cheat on mana, cheat on equip, or you're playing a bunch of ramp, but I love it. And that's Argentum Armor. It costs 6 to play, 6 to equip, but it gives equipped creature +6/+6. So as long as your creature had 1 native power, it'll knock it up to 7. If it's, if it has at least 5 power, it's knocking it up to 11. Now it's a 2-turn clock, right? All that. +6/+6. And whenever it attacks, destroy target permanent. It's flexible. Whatever is keeping you from winning the game, suit up your commander with Argentum Armor, swing, and get rid of it.
Destroy their Mace of Ith.
Yeah.
They can tap it in response, but still.
They could, but now Maze of Ith is a big problem for the number of times that I have failed with a Voltron because someone had Maze of Ith plus Shadow Sphere.
Yeah.
And
This is tough.
so Argentum Armor can get rid of those things.
Mhm.
It can get rid of things that say that players can't be attacked. Things like a glacial chasm, things like that.
Fear of
You swing at
safety.
an opponent. Fear of safety.
Propaganda. Ghostly
You-
prison.
You swing at one of your open opponents. You destroy the thing that's keeping you from attacking the other opponent.
Yeah.
So Argentum Armor, it's great. It beefs up your guy.
Yeah.
If you have the capacity to pay the 6 twice,
Yeah. It's a tall order, but there are
It
ways
is.
around it, like that Pure Steel Paladin we mentioned earlier.
Yep.
Sigarda's Aid. Equip
Yep.
it for free as soon as it comes in.
Absolutely. If you've got I would also say it's worth 12 if you've got like an Ishin or something that'll double up the trigger.
Yeah.
Then
Or
that's-
multiple
yeah.
combat steps.
Multiple combat step. Yeah. Then, taking 2 turns off to destroy 2 permanents. Well, destroy target permanent costs 7 typically.
Cost
So-
7 colorless, yeah.
So now you're getting a discount if you can destroy 2 on the first attack.
Yeah, so this section about interaction and removal, I mean, the game hasn't changed just because you're playing one creature. And your opponents are still playing normal commander where they've got lots of stuff on the board. They're not putting it all in one creature, or maybe they are. We did get one comment about somebody saying that their group likes to do anime cage match where they all play Voltron decks.
That's cool. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
that is
that would
pretty
be.
cool, where they just do 4 Voltron decks against each other. But remember, like we said in part 1, the Voltron is going uphill. You're trying to do the one creature beef up while everybody else is diversifying their portfolio in order to build a strong board. So you've got to be able to pick apart the weaknesses in their game plan. And any of the cards that can pick apart their game plan and beef up your creature, we think are really good. Our next section is protection and recursion. You've only got one creature. You've got to make sure it stays. You've got to make sure that it can stay on the board, protect it, revive it from death. You got to find a way to keep your threat on the board as it goes against removal after removal after removal. Derek, start us off.
Yeah,
What's one you
so I
like?
mean, I just played my Ivy deck against these guys a couple days ago, and she's kind of like, like we said, it's like kind of like 2 Voltrons. And I mean, I know you guys were throwing out removal back to back to back, and she was just eating them. And I was using cards like Snakeskin Veil, 1 green
So
for an
good.
instant, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains hexproof until end of turn. There's cards like what else did I do? Tameo Safekeeping, Tyvar's Last Stand. Things that make it hexproof and or indestructible. Tyvar's Last Stand has an X in the cost that can help you bump it up as a big hit. I mean, these
Insanely good.
cards do so, like, it throws off someone's whole game plan. And now, I've got hexproof for indestructible. I mean, I think
To be able to counter them for just 1 green or
Yeah.
1 blue or 1 white. Don't forget that white has a whole suite of these cards where it's like protection from a color, which is really cool because it can make a creature unblockable or it can make their creature be able to block with impunity. So really go through your options for your 1 mana protection spells. I feel like just about every color's got them.
Yeah. In our game, you would cast some kind of board wipe. Was it like Martial Coup or something? You had wiped the board, and because I had, I think, Tameo Safekeeping or Tyvar's Last Stand, I made her indestructible for 1 green mana. She was the only.
Are you talking about me or Benjamin?
I think it was you. You had tried to do a board wipe, and I made her indestructible for 1 green mana, and so I was just on the field swaying still.
It was Starstorm.
Starstorm, that's what it
Starstorm,
was.
Deals
yeah,
X
that's what it
damage
was,
to
yeah.
each creature.
Yeah.
Okay, I really like all the instants that make all your stuff indestructible. The Boros Charm, Heroic Intervention. I guess similarly, you have Teferi's Protection.
Mhm.
These are ones that won't only protect your commander and give it hexproof and indestructible, but also protects all your auras, equipments, the lands we mentioned earlier. If you've got pieces that you've put together, these are just instant speed. Oh, you played a Vandal Blast? Boros Charm. Heroic Intervention. Yeah.
2 mana.
2 mana.
Whole board protection.
Yep.
So good. So we did talk about a major weakness of lots of Voltrons. Say you've got your hexproof, you've got your ward, you've got your indestructible. What about being forced to sacrifice that creature? Being forced to sacrifice the one thing you've got on the board? Well, we've got some protection for that too. We mentioned last episode Sigarda, Host of Herons, who has a big native ability that says spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause you to sacrifice permanents. Sigarda costs 2 green, green, white.
Green, white, white.
For a 5/5 flying hexproof that says people can't force you to sacrifice stuff. Well, there's also Tajuru Preserver that costs 1 and a green. This is a 2/1 elf shaman that has the same anti-sacrifice ability. Spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause you to sacrifice permanents. And then there is an equipment that does this also. It doesn't protect all your creatures, but it does protect whatever it's equipped to, and that's called Assault Suit. Assault Suit, Derek, make sure I get this right. Costs 4 to play.
I think so.
4 to equip.
3 to equip.
3 to equip. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, haste, can't attack you or planeswalkers you control, and can't be sacrificed. Assault Suit, I mean, you could play it just for the power buff, the haste, and can't be sacrificed.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason that clause is even there is because of this. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you can have that player gain control of the equipped creature until the end of turn. Untap it. Because Assault Suit grants haste, now your opponent can swing with your Voltron, but they can't sacrifice it away. So a very cool equipment that can protect your creature from being sacrificed by anyone. A little awesome tech that we mentioned last episode is putting this on creatures like Thrun or Zergo that say this creature is indestructible during your turn. Well, if that creature changes controllers, then it's always, quote, your turn.
Yeah.
And so they're always indestructible. Very cool card.
Yeah, for the next one, this is kind of a stand-in for a huge swath of cards, but we've got Cryptic Command, blue, 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 and 1 for an instant. This has got a modal thing, so it's choose 2, counter target spell, always good, return target permanent to its owner's hand, tap all creatures your opponents control, draw a card. This one does a lot for a Voltron player. Tapping all creatures your opponents control can let you get in. Drawing a card is always nice. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. Maybe you want to save your commander or your Voltron commander for so you don't have to send it back to the command zone and pay extra tax.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's something problematic on their the opponent's team or the opponent's board that you want to get rid of. And then counter target spell. I mean, every counter target spell is going to be some of the best removal you can get in the game at any point.
If your Voltron's blue, you should run a suite of counter spells.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be the best protection you have. Benjamin plays Fleshbag Marauder, counterspell.
You just got to have trigger discipline with counter spells.
Yeah.
You know, pick the battles you want to fight, because as a Voltron, you're going to be eating a ton of stuff, and you got to make sure you can catch them all, or as many as you can.
Mm-hmm.
We could do an entire episode about how to counterspell.
We really could, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of pro players with a lot of good advice about how to counterspell. The rule of thumb that I've always done is, am I going to lose the game from that spell? If the answer is yes, I should counter it. If not, then I'll just try my best. I wanted to mention a bunch of boots. So we did mention earlier the Zephyr boots that give, what did they give?
Flying
and loot.
Yeah.
Flying and loot. So Voltrons love boots. You should make sure that your Voltron has got great boots. There's one pair of boots that you should not give your Voltron, and that's Lightning Greaves. Okay?
But My Mythical Meta, why wouldn't I want Lightning Greaves?
Lightning
That's
Greaves,
the best one.
Lightning Greaves is so good in any other deck. It costs 2. It equips for free. Equips for 0. It gives equipped creature haste and Shroud.
Blah, blah, blah.
We don't want Shroud. Okay, your Voltron needs to be able to be targeted by you. You need to be able to give it auras and equipments, whatever you're working with. So you should look instead at Swiftfoot boots. Equips for 1. You gotta, like we said, the Voltrons are doing an uphill battle. You need to pay 1 to equip and give it hexproof instead. Benjamin, tell me about Lava Spur boots.
Lava Spur boots. It's like a mini Swiftfoot boots. It only costs 1 and 1 to equip. Gives haste and ward 1.
Haste and ward 1. We mentioned winged boots earlier in the show. Costs 1 and a blue and 1 to equip. Equipped creature has flying and ward 4. So it's not the haste, but a much more powerful ward, still for that same low price of 2 to cast, 1 to equip.
Now, Lava Spur Boots does give +1/+0, so it's really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Lava Spur Boots are great and so stylish.
I mean, I'm looking at these Lightning Greaves, the new art. I guess that's from Duskmourn. Looks good. I like
They
it.
look like tennis shoes.
I think they literally are.
I think they,
looks like a tracksuit or some track.
somebody's just
shorts or
got their
something
Air
like that.
Force Ones and
Yeah,
magic. It won't be long.
yeah. The Nike secret lair.
Yeah, the Air Jordan secret lair.
Yeah.
It'll be there. It'll come up soon enough. Benjamin, tell us about Silent Arbiter.
Yeah. So when you're playing Voltron, you're gonna usually be attacking with one creature, the main creature, right? And that, as we've talked about in our last episode, often leaves you vulnerable to crackbacks, and swarm blocking can often be a problem. Silent Arbiter really solves that. It says no more than one creature can attack. Well, you're fine with that. But if someone's playing a token deck or playing a bunch of 4/4 beasts or whatever, just normal magic that's not going all in on one creature, then you're winning that race, right? You're swinging with something that can kill them every turn, and they're swinging with something that can't kill you every turn. So it protects you from alpha strikes while still letting you get in like normal. And it has no more than one creature can block each combat, meaning that if you've got trample, you're getting in. Or if you've got menace, you're getting in, right? It helps you get in where they can't throw a bunch of creatures. And if you have the biggest creature, even if you don't have evasion, it means your creature's not going to die because they can't double or triple block to kill your creature. So Silent Arbiter does a lot of work in a Voltron deck. There are similar ones. There's like Stoic Angel. I think that says you can only untap one creature a turn. There's Crawl Space that says no more than two creatures can attack you.
If you like this effect, there's also Miri, Weatherlight Duelist, who has essentially this ability as a. I mean, you could build her certainly as a Voltron.
It's based on her.
Yeah.
If Miri is tapped, opponents can only attack with one creature, something like that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if Miri is attacking, they can only block with one creature.
Yeah.
Interesting. I do like this. So when she attacks, they can't block with more than one creature, and as long as she's tapped, they can't attack. There you go. It's a Silent Arbiter in your command zone that you can build Voltron. Cool.
Certainly pretty good. It helps do a lot of the legwork for Voltron.
There you go. And you can stick Miri into your Voltron deck. Doesn't hurt. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So
quick, do the last one because you kill us all the time with this card. Do that last one.
Okay, yeah. Well, I wasn't sure if I wanted to include it, but I will because Benjamin fought for it. If you're building Voltron and you've decided to go the aura route, there are lots of good auras, especially in white and green, that are cheap and make great protection. I love Spirit Mantle. This is, I mean, it can't be expensive, can it?
It's been printed a lot, I think.
Oh, wow. It's $4 in some places. $2.50.
Yeah.
Okay, here's $1.77 on the list. All right. So about $2. I was not expecting that. That's more than I expected to see. Spirit Mantle is an enchantment for 1 and a white. Enchant creature aura. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has protection from creatures. So good to make your creature be able to attack or block with impunity. It cannot be targeted, cannot be damaged, cannot be blocked by creatures. It's just so good. So any creature that's got some targeted ability, Benjamin used to have an Olivia Voldaren deck that loved to be able to bite your creature, make it a vampire, and then take control of it. Well, if Uriel the Miststalker has Spirit Mantle, safe.
Well, he was safe anyway.
Oh, he had hexproof. Never mind. But anyway, Spirit Mantle's just really good. Man, I don't know what else to say about it. But for 2 mana to have pro creatures, it's just really good.
Can't be blocked. Get in there.
And I did mention earlier that white not only has instants that give protection from colors, but white has a couple of enchantments that do this too. Flickering Ward is good.
Mm-hmm.
Flickering Ward is great because, especially for Enchantress decks, Flickering Ward, I guess let me look it up. I hadn't thought of it before, but Flickering Ward costs a white mana. When you cast it, when it enters, choose a color. An enchanted creature has protection from the chosen color. And this effect doesn't remove Flickering Ward, so that means you can still choose white. So that's just good. You can give it protection from a color. But then you can also pay 1 white to return that aura to your hand. So then you can pay a white to cast it, pay a white to return it. Say you've got 2 enchantresses on the board, Eidolon of Blossoms plus Sithis Harvest Hand, and you just need some card draw. Cast Flickering Ward 2 times and get your card draw off of it.
Nice.
I used to have it in my Daxos the Returned deck in order to get my experience counters up.
Yeah.
So good. I mean, protection from a color is never bad. Whatever your opponents are playing, choose that color. Yeah, just really good. So Flickering Ward, Spirit Mantle. Derek, do the last one.
Yeah, so this is something that no one really takes seriously in Commander games until it happens to them. I remember people being this meta giving me a hard time about fogs, but yeah, here it is. Fog. This is just the catch-all for these type of effects. Fog costs 1 green. It's an instant. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. As a primarily green player, you swing out and people think, oh yeah, he's got nothing there. I'm gonna swing everything I got and wipe him out. Psych! Uno reverse. Hit them with the fog. They just wasted their combat step. You're protected. It's great. In my Thrun deck, I have like 5 or 6 fogs, and every time they think I'm out of fogs, surprise, I've got one more.
Yeah, there's one more. Surprise.
There's one, man. I don't know if it's the free commander one or if it's a different one. But
Flickering Haze is the free commander one.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact words of it, but one of them is like prevent combat damage your opponents do. So it's still, you can deal the damage back.
Mm-hmm.
As a
That is
blocker.
Obscuring Haze.
Yeah.
If you control a
Oh, yeah.
commander, you can cast it without paying its mana cost. Prevent all damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures your opponents control.
So
Sick.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love fogs. They don't get the respect they deserve. They're not great, but they are pretty fun.
So this is quite a robust category. Protection, recursion. You got to have it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I feel like in other archetypes, you don't need to devote as much deck space to this.
I have decks where I don't put anything in here.
Yeah. But in a deck like this, it's just so pivotal to your entire game plan to have your one creature survive. We already talked in part 1 about how this is a time-hungry strategy. You need that one creature alive for many turns in order to win. And so you've got to devote some deck space to protecting that creature.
Yeah. I mean, luckily you're not running a lot of creatures, so these categories can really eat up a lot of that space. And I mean, you need more than you think you're going to need. So however much you have, put a little bit more. Put a lot of ramp in there because you're going to have to be casting your commander over and over and over. Doesn't matter how many of these cards you have for protection. It's going to get removed eventually, and it's going to get expensive.
Yep. All right. So our last category is granting power and keywords. We talked about how
it says knocking someone's whole head off. Okay.
Yep, that's this category. Is knocking someone's entire block off.
Or roundhouse kick someone in the chest.
We talked about how important it is to get your creature up to power 7, and we talked about how just about every keyword is going to help your Voltron do its thing. Some are more important than others, but you've got to get, what did we say? Hexproof, Indestructible, Vigilance, Lifelink, Double Strike if you can, Infect if you can, Unblockables in some way, Flying, and you've got to be able to pack all of that onto one creature. And so what we've come up with are mostly equipments, an aura or two, but mostly equipments about how to ramp that power up, past 7. You got to get it to 7, but every point matters past 7. You got to get all the keywords you can. And we have kind of curated a collection of what we think are the best equipments and the best ways to pile keywords onto your creatures. Benjamin, start us off for this one.
I put this in any deck. Blackblade Reforged. If I'm playing lands, if I'm going tall, it's a 2 mana equipment that equips to a legendary creature for just 3. If you want to equip it to something else, you got to pay 7. But make your commander
Never.
No. Your command, so it costs 2 to play, 3 to equip to a legendary creature. An equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control. So it gets wild.
It's a showstopper for sure.
Yeah, and as soon as you equip it to your commander's going to have more than 7 power, almost always. It shortens that clock so significantly. There's a couple other equipment that we'll talk about that can get them even bigger, but this one's just consistent because every deck is playing those lands. I'd put it in any Voltron deck, honestly.
Yeah, you don't have to build around Blackblade Reforged.
Yeah, it can be really good if you do. And you could be mana starved and you're in the late game stuck on 4 lands and you've been playing off mana rocks and stuff. okay, paying 2 to play and 3 to equip for +4/+4 is fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's valuable. So yeah, I'd put it in any Voltron deck that can. If you can get to
Yeah,
3
very good.
lands, I'd play it.
Derek, you want to do the infect ones?
Sure. Here's our stand-in for infect cards. Grafted exoskeleton is an equipment for 4. It costs
I wish
2 to
Randy
equip.
were here. Randy loves grafted
He loves it.
exoskeletons.
It's a little pet card of his.
Yeah.
Equip for 2. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has infect. Which remember, you only need 10 infect counters on a player to kill them. Whenever it becomes unattached from a permanent, sacrifice that permanent. Ideally, you don't want your commander to die, but you know.
I've never seen that matter.
Yeah, I honestly haven't either, because if they're getting rid of your commander, you're dying
I've never
anyways.
moved grafted exoskeleton once I equipped it.
Yeah. So there's also like Triumph of the Hordes, which gives, I think it's green 2, gives +1/+1, trample and infect as a
To
sorcery.
all of your creatures.
Yeah, all your creatures.
Yeah.
That's my pet card. I love that card. Tainted Strike is a black infect card that gives a creature infect. And I can't remember what Phyresis does. Is it an aura?
Phyresis is an aura that costs black and 1 that gives enchanted creature infect.
Oh, that's the one with like the hyena with like the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, infect is going to be your quickest, like we said, it's a time intensive thing. This is going to be your quickest way to do it.
Yep.
You might get sneers and instantly targeted, but I promise you, playing a Voltron commander, they were already instantly targeting you already. They saw your 15/15 commander. Nothing else mattered to them.
What's the
So you
difference?
might as well, play the heel, play the villain that
Yeah.
they want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. It's not necessarily a pet card of mine, but I find myself turning to this particular equipment in lots and lots of decks, and that's Sword of Vengeance.
Yeah.
Just because of the sheer number of keywords it grants that I find to be really good. So Sword of Vengeance costs 3 and 3 to equip. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has First Strike, Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. I just find that to be really good. In decks that aren't Voltron, I can move it to the creature I played that turn for a reasonable cost. Pay 3, and now that creature's got haste, but it's also got First Strike, Vigilance, Trample. It's almost like I can turn any creature into a 1-turn Voltron because it's going to get a power buff and an amazing suite of keywords that are going to make it a great attacker and to keep it on defense, to have both Vigilance and First Strike.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a
really
great
good.
defender too. So I like Sword of Vengeance a lot. Let me at the same time go ahead and do Loxodon Warhammer. Loxodon Warhammer also costs 3 to equip. Equipped creature gets +3/+0 and has Trample and Lifelink. That life you gain from attacking is going to be the defense if you don't have a blocker up, or the fact that you only have one blocker up. That lifelink is the rest of your defense. It is the rest of your blockers. So we think Loxodon Warhammer, and I know you guys still play it, right?
Yeah.
You guys still
Yeah.
put it in decks occasionally.
Yeah.
Again, even in decks that aren't dedicated Voltron decks, Loxodon Warhammer is just good.
Yeah.
In
I mean,
any deck that has a decent sized creature.
yeah, along those lines with Loxodon Warhammer is Basilisk Collar, which gives Death Touch and Lifelink.
Yes.
And I think it equips, it's like a cheap equip. Maybe like
Yeah,
1 to
Basilisk
equip and
Collar
like 2 to cast
doesn't
or
cost
something.
very much. Hey, they reprinted it in Foundations. It's only $3 now.
All right.
Yeah, brother.
A little less, but it costs 1 and equips for 2 to give Death Touch and Lifelink. Yeah, very good. Benjamin, grab another one.
Okay. There's a lot of good equipment out there that provides indestructible. You've got Mithril Coat that has flash, and when it enters, you attach it to a legendary creature you control. So that's a nice way to save your commander, and then it always has indestructible. But the one I really want to focus on is Hammer of Nazan. It's a 4-mana equipment, equips for 4, but whenever it or another equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you can attach that equipment to target creature you control. So the first equip is free. So it costs 4, and equipped creature has +2/+0 and indestructible. If you have a way to get this reliably, which doesn't Nazan fetch Hammer of Nazan?
Yeah.
Nazan himself fetches Hammer of Nazan, but there's always Steel Shaper's Gift, which is a 1-mana tutor. It costs 1 white in order to search out an equipment.
Mm-hmm. There's another one that costs 2, 1 and a white.
Open the Armory.
Open the Armory. If you're playing those cards because you have special equipment, Hammer of Nazan is almost always the first one I grab because it can cheat on all the other equip costs. So it provides indestructible to your Voltron, boosts their power, and lets you cheat on equip costs. It's a good way to supercharge
Like
your
Argentum armor that we mentioned before.
Exactly.
6 equip costs. Cheat it with Hammer of Nazan.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And
Hell yeah.
the hammer, what's the
Colossal
Colossus hammer?
Colossus Hammer.
Costs 8 to equip, but only 1 to play. If you've got Hammers of Nazan, something's getting +10/+10.
Yeah.
So Hammer of Nazan helps you cheat on those costs, so that's a good way to load up your Voltron with keywords and power boosts while also protecting it in the process. Definitely worth getting.
Derek, can I do Nettle Cyst?
Sure, take them both.
Kind of in the same vein as Blackblade Reforged is Nettle Cyst. Nettle Cyst costs 3 and costs 2 to equip. It has Living Weapon. It comes in on a germ first. But the power boost it gives, equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. If you're playing a Voltron deck where this is already your plan, then Nettle Cyst is a cheap way to just get that raw power and toughness boost. So I like that a lot. And after Nettle Cyst, we also have Batterskull, another living weapon. Has the price on Batterskull gone down?
Yeah.
Yes. For less than $5, Batterskull, because I had that idea for a living weapon deck. So I need to get a Batterskull for that. Batterskull costs 5 and equips for 5. But y'all, equipped creature gets +4/+4 and has vigilance and lifelink. Whatever creature you equip it to becomes the best blocker, a great attacker, the best life buffer that you can create. Like, this is really good. And you can pay 3 to return Batterskull to your hand. So as soon as someone realizes that +4/+4 vigilance and lifelink is an incredible combination for you to have on your Voltron, you can pay 3 to save it. Very, very good. Derek, take the last one.
Boy,
Yeah.
this is one of the staples. If I had a spell book, this would
Yes.
probably be one of them.
Huh?
Rancor, 1 green for an enchantment aura. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0 and has trample. And when Rancor is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. Wowie zowie, what a great way to just get some quick, fast trample on there.
So good. Like, I've been playing this card since I started playing Magic, I think. Like, I think I had this card in my first Crush the Blood-Braided deck.
Yeah, I mean, I learned about it from when you taught me. You had the mono green Nylea deck, and I was just like, wow, this is the best card ever.
I don't know why I would have had this deck in Nylea, since Nylea gives all creatures you control trample, but
maybe I'm making it up. I don't know.
no, it makes sense.
I don't know how else I would have learned about it. Yeah.
I mean, it follows the timeline.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rancor's just so good to be an aura that returns to your hand whenever the creature is destroyed. Like, that's just so good to have that backup.
Yeah. All right.
Man.
We did it.
Yeah, that was a lot of cards. Use this list to fill in the spaces that your deck needed to be doing already. Your deck needs to be ramping, drawing cards, like we mentioned, protecting your commander and getting that power boost. Well, do that while serving your Voltron game plan.
When the cards in your other categories, your ramp, your card draw, whatever, serve your game plan, it makes it easier to hit that critical mass. It gives you more flexibility in your deck building. It allows your deck to feel more focused and unique. Let's just put it this way. When you're building and you have your 10 ramp cards and your 10 removal spells and your 10 card draw spells, and they're always the same, they're the exact same because they're the most efficient ones, then every deck that you play is going to play the same, and you're going to have your synergy cards are going to be separated. But when your synergy cards and your ramp spells and your card draw spells blend together, you have a lot more freedom to build the deck the way you want it, and it'll feel unique. It'll feel like you're doing the thing your commander wants to do. And I don't think you don't sacrifice that much power, I don't think, because you make up for it in synergy, in my opinion.
I agree. Like, Randy's mentioned the deck building challenge or the experiment he wants to try, and he's not here to defend himself, so if I get it wrong, then that's too bad. But this idea of building lots of small deck shells, building his own jumpstart set, basically.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to build, a black half of a deck that does this, a red half of a deck that does this, a green half, a white half, and a blue half. And then at any moment, he could say, what color pair do I feel like playing? Azorius? Let me grab my white and blue halves and play. Well, when you build in the way we're talking about, the deck is gonna flow better because all of the pieces are meant to work together. All of the pieces are meant to have that synergy rather than feeling disjointed. Benjamin, Derek, did either of you ever have the experience of actually doing Jumpstart games? Of grabbing 2 Jumpstart packs and just going
I never played. I did buy some.
Yeah.
You and I think,
Benjamin, how about you?
Jumpstart. Yeah.
Yeah, you and I did. I played some with a kid at school back when I was teaching. We did a couple Jumpstart games, and it was definitely a fun experience, but not something that I want all of my commander decks to feel like.
Right. Yeah.
Because
It's just
as I was playing those Jumpstart games, I was like, I could draw the card and realize what pack it came from and be like, man, I need to wait until I get another card from that pack for this card to do anything.
Yeah.
Because if I draw a card from my unicorn pack, it's not going to do anything with my sacrifice pack.
Yeah.
Like, they want me to be playing sacrifice unicorns, but none of the unicorn cards care about being sacrificed, and none of my sacrifice cards care about unicorns. So I just have to wait to get the right cards I need. But in the deck building that we're talking about, all of your cards are meant to be working together, and they're all contributing to the same game plan. Anyway, so that's kind of our word of wisdom segment for today. Is there anything that you guys want to add about the Voltron archetype? These are going to be our final words on Voltron before we move to a new essential concept.
I mean, I said it earlier, but boy, run way more ramp that you think you'll need, way more card draw, way more protection of indestructible hexproof types. Your commander, no matter how hard to try, is going to get removed, and you need to have it's only one creature. As the tax goes up, you need to not be in a spot where you cannot cast your commander because it's been removed so many times. You need to really crank out some mana, especially so you could play another, multiple things at once.
It might feel bad to my creature's already indestructible, and I drew a new thing that adds indestructible. I mean, you're going to want it because you're going to need it later.
I think a really common way for especially for beginners to play is to try to play as many of the cards in their hand as possible. And Voltron really rewards you for sitting on your hand and just playing what you need right now. So that's what you were saying is you say you're going to want it. Yeah, just tuck that away. You've already got Hammer of Nazan. Just hold on to your Mithril Coat. It's just, you don't got to play it right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because when somebody removes Hammer of Nazan, then you play Mithril Coat and save your dude when you need it to. Benjamin, Derek, thank you so much for what I think is a great start to a great series. We've gotten a lot of traction online, a lot of interest on people wanting to see how different archetypes are played, the pros and cons, the cards that synergize with these archetypes. And I'm really excited to just get into the mud and talk Magic with you guys. These 2 episodes have been a lot of fun for me. I know, Derek, you mentioned that, wow, I kind of felt energized after that podcast episode.
Yeah.
After that recording.
To talk about and think about.
Yeah, it's fun to use what we've gained after a decade of playing and talk about it as if we're experts. I don't know if we are, but in our meta and in a group of 3s, I think we've got good advice. So this has been a ton of fun. If you're interested in checking out our Patreon, you can find us at patreon.com/My Mythical Meta. Benjamin, how can people ask us questions directly or comment or make requests for future episodes?
MyMythicalMeta@gmail.com.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Benjamin, Derek. Thank you guys for being my great friends. Adios.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.